Hello everybody, welcome to the Red Devil Experience. My name is Eric. Hope everybody is doing well. We got a jam-packed show today. Summer of trio sales potentially for Manchester United. Updates about Kobbie Mainoo, Rasmus Garnacho. We also got updates about Matheus Cunha, Victor Osimhen, Ederson, and a couple other loose transfers to get into. So it's going to be a good show. Please make sure you smash the like button because that helps the channel immensely, and we appreciate it if you can smash that like button for us. It helps us get pushed out there. So please do that. It takes 2 seconds and it's a great help. We appreciate that very much. If you're new, subscribe if you enjoy the content. We're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers. We're at 2,926. That has not updated. It takes a little bit. And make sure you hit the notification bell icon so you get notifications when we go live. We are live during the week, and we are definitely always live after the matches doing what we call the Red Devil Recap, which is the reaction to the shows. So we're going to be doing that. We also have a Discord that we launched last show. We're going to get that link for the Discord at some point. I was unable to do it because I was putting the show together, but we'll get it in there in a little bit. But other than that, let's get past the intros. Let's get to the news that everybody wants to talk about. I'm going to start with Osimhen because we didn't go live yesterday and there was some updates from David Ornstein. David Ornstein, pretty much, I guess, on the same level as Fabrizio. Only, I guess, a little bit less international. David Ornstein pretty much for the UK, for England, for EPL, and especially for Manchester United. If David Ornstein speaks, it's as credible as Fabrizio's pretty much. So David Ornstein gave some updates yesterday. He gave some updates today, some interesting updates. He's pretty much essentially single-handedly almost killed the Victor Osimhen story here. So I'm going to get into that. Shout out to the chat. I see Lyle and Lions in here, and I think more are going to join us. But David Ornstein yesterday was on NBC Sports doing a little bit of chatting about Manchester United, and he said Victor Osimhen is not on Manchester United's agenda for this summer, and he essentially killed the deal. He killed all the hype about Victor Osimhen, but there's a little bit of disparity there because Fabrizio has said the opposite. So now people are confused as to who to believe because the two very credible people, they're two people that, or two journalists that people hold very highly, and when they speak they listen to them the most out of anybody else pretty much. So you got one of Fabrizio saying, you know, that we are looking at Osimhen, we are doing something there, we are having contact, and we are trying to sort something out. But at the same time, we now have David Ornstein saying that Victor Osimhen is not on the agenda for Manchester United. We are not interested in him. It is probably coming from Victor Osimhen's agent trying to drum up interest and maybe get a bigger contract for him from Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia is very heavily interested in Victor Osimhen, and there's a little bit of story of him chasing the bag. I mean, he wants about 300 and something thousand per week. We all know that United don't really want to pay 300,000 per week for any player, and that might be a little bit of a problem for us in terms of, you know, it might not fit into our, you know, structure and our plan. And maybe that's why they do want to go for Delap. I mean, previous reports said that, you know, Ruben Amorim wants Victor Osimhen. He deems him as his #1 target. Jason Wilcox has made Liam Delap his #1 target. So there's a little bit of a back and forth going around this story. Now, the other update that follows is David Ornstein continuing on and saying why Osimhen is not on the agenda for Manchester United, saying the feeling among most Premier League clubs that have looked into the possibility seems to be the salary, which I mentioned. Expectations are difficult to meet, and he is perhaps not the player/character they're looking for at the present. We mentioned this a little bit last time because, listen, he had that whole sort of falling out at Napoli with the Napoli president. You know, maybe his character and the way he handled that situation is called into question a little bit. You know, I don't know how much that plays into. But, you know, certainly United under Inos doing what they're supposed to be doing, all looking at profile of players in terms of their attitude, their character, their mentality. Maybe you can make some arguments for it. Maybe you can make some arguments against it. So that could be plausible there. But also, I think the big one is probably the salary. I mean, it does seem like he's sort of chasing the bag a little bit. which I have no problem with players doing it. Listen, they deserve to try and get paid as much as possible, and however much they believe they should be making based on their beliefs and their ability. But in terms of how that goes between Manchester United and Osimhen, again, we've been cutting down the wage bill. Inos has made it quite clear they don't want a high wage bill. They don't want players on a high wage. They don't want Casemiros. They don't want Rashfords. They don't care really how good they are. They view anything sort of close to 300,000 and above kind of just unacceptable and outlandish, and they don't really want those at the club. I would also make this point as to say, I do sort of agree with that. I mean, I'm not saying that we have to become super cheap and, we should be signing players on just 100K a week. And, any player that asks for over 100 and 150K a week, we should just totally, throw them in the bin and ignore them, because I don't think that works pretty well. I mean, there's some players that, you could argue they are of some sort of elite status where you can give them 200,000, maybe even 250,000, but that's kind of pushing it. But I think the real issue is, with him, I mean, it's reported that he wants around 325,000 a week. That's sort of an issue because it makes the transfer a bigger risk. If it doesn't work out, if he flops, I mean, and a lot of people say he won't flop, but if he flops, nobody knows the future, and nobody knows how he would actually necessarily do in the Prem. You can guess all you want, but nobody knows 100%. If we pay whatever we pay for him and we put him on that wage, I think we then again put ourselves in a situation where we have a player that hasn't done well. We're going to struggle to get rid of him if we want to or need to get rid of him because of the high wage. And I think Ineos are trying to avoid those situations altogether. So it makes sense what David Ornstein is saying. It's a little bit of common sense considering what we know about Ineos, what Ineos have said. And the way Manchester United are kind of operating going forward. So, I mean, it's put a damper on the people that want Osimhen and really like Osimhen and want United to get Osimhen. I don't think it's like 100% dead because, again, like I said before, and we're going to get to sort of this little update here. Fabrizio Romano reported that United are interested in Osimhen, and it depends on whether they get Champions League. And the budget they have. And Ornstein has reported that we're not interested in Osimhen and they will not change their targets depending on Champions League. So it's two different stories from two top journalists and two very credible journalists. And it's two different stories. So there's a lot of confusion out there. I would just say we got to see how it plays out. I think right now it's still very early. The window's not open. The season's not over. I think it's still sort of fairly early to kind of say, it's one way is living, one way is dead. I think it's fair. You could say maybe both are still a possibility because I think we haven't traveled down a necessary path yet. I think there's a decision that we can go down one path or the other. I don't think we've picked that path, and I don't think we've necessarily started walking down that path. I think we're assessing both paths, and we're trying to determine which path we should take and which path we're going to actually take. So, it's interesting. It's interesting, and again, this is what happens with the transfers and the transfer news and the transfer stories. It could seem like it's dead on one day. And the next day it can change heavily based on, somebody that comes in like David Ornstein. Because the day before David Ornstein didn't speak, and it was all the other journalists. I mean, Fabrizio was involved, but, Jamie Jackson and all these other guys, Laurie Whitwell, saying all types of stuff. And, David Ornstein comes and opens his mouth, and now the story's kind of shifted back. I guess maybe a little bit more to the center, maybe a little bit less to United aren't going to sign Osimhen. It kind of lines up with the other reports that Liam Delap is the number one striker target for Manchester United as well, because there are those stories out there. So, we got to see how that kind of develops. And one little thing that kind of adds to this story, but it's a switch to Delap, and this is from David Ornstein as well, saying Liam Delap is the top striker target, so he has reiterated that, and said the finances are in place for United to do the deals they want to. They will not depend on European football or sales. Again, kind of a difference, kind of a, it's a different story to what has been being reported from other journalists, Ben Jacobs and all these other guys, even Fabrizio. Some people were saying that we don't have the money, we have to rely on sales. David Ornstein coming out and saying United have the finances to do the deals they want, and we don't have to depend on European football or sales. So it's to me, it's quite interesting because, again, I think like last show, I said that there's a possibility of both. We don't know how much money United actually have, so we can't actually say if they can or cannot do these deals. They supposedly we're broke, but supposedly we have the finances in place to do the deals that we want to do. So I think it's a little bit funny because this is how this sort of stuff goes. But I mean, it is what it is. I want to get to the chat real quick. Shout out Lyle. Shout out Lions. Shout out Rajat. Rajat's in here as well. I'm trying to figure out what that initial comment was, Lions, what you were saying. Is his personal feeling on this, or has he contacted? Oh, you're talking about Ornstein. I mean, he didn't make that clear. I'm gonna be quite honest. I can't say whether it's his personal feeling or not. He didn't really. He didn't really specify that. I would take it as, I don't think, as a journalist, he shouldn't, if you're going to come out and speak like that, you shouldn't be putting things out as a personal feeling. That's not your job as a journalist to do personal feelings. Your job as a journalist is to have sources and contacts, get news or facts or, reports, try and verify that, if you have, very credible sources, and relay that to the people. So, in my judgment right now, considering I don't know, I would say that, I would think he's doing his job and relaying information that he has through his contacts that he has and sources that he has. And so I don't necessarily think or feel that it should be personal feeling. It should be that, he has had contacts here and there, because he said most Premier League clubs. I mean, I'm sure he has contacts with many, sorts of different types of people to get this information. So, Rajat says we could have got Eden in 2012. Yeah, I saw that. I don't, I really, I'm gonna be quite honest. I'm not to put like, if you guys want to talk about it, that's fine. To me, despite seeming a little bit rough, but I really don't care. It was, 13 years ago. Eden Hazard is not even a player anymore. It has nothing to do with us. So I saw that story. I didn't even bother to really read it, to be quite honest. I just saw something about it. We could have apparently got Eden Hazard. Whatever happened. I'm not too fussed about it. But if you guys want to talk about it, you guys can. But it's not of importance to me. But what I do want to get to is Cunha, because we got a couple of updates from Cunha yesterday as well. And we got some updates from Cunha today. And we just got a big update from Fabrizio about Cunha as we were going live. And that's going to be the last tab. So when we get to that, you'll know, because it'll be from Fabrizio. But these updates about Cunha, Ben Jacobs saying Manchester United are able to fund deals for Matheus Cunha and Liam Delap before any outgoings. I don't know if he said this. I think he said this after David Ornstein said this, which is funny because he's kind of just reiterating what David Ornstein kind of broke and said. But I think he was also sort of saying this before anyway, so I'm not too sure. So I don't want to like completely discredit him or anything. But another journalist saying the same thing that David Ornstein has said today. And then we had a couple other updates. Fabrizio coming out earlier in the day saying Manchester United will hold new talks with Matheus Cunha very soon to try and get the deal done. Ruben Amorim really admires the player. United feel as though Cunha really wants to join and is excited by the project. I think that's pretty quite clear. I mean, if the reports are true, I mean, the whole affection thing and the whole thing of like, it doesn't matter if United are in Europe or they're not in Europe, that he's willing to join. So I think that's pretty clear cut and dry. We did have other reports other than, you know, Fabrizio stating that we are going to hold new talks with Matheus Cunha sometime during this week. And that was about 2 days ago, so it's been 2 days later. So you know, I think it's happening either today, tomorrow, something like that. So we should get even further updates, and maybe the deal can be even closer to being done. If not done, I mean, nobody knows how this is really going to unfold. It could be done tomorrow for all we know. I'm not, you know, maybe it's not likely. I'm not saying that it, you know, it's dead on to happen, but I'm just saying that, you know, nobody really knows how this thing is actually going to unfold. I mean, you know, can it take a couple more weeks? The real sentiment around it is that this transfer is not one, and Fabrizio reiterated this. He said this transfer is not one that is being looked to be dragged out. This transfer is looking to be done ASAP, whether that's, you know, this week, next week, or the following week or something like that. It's not a transfer that's meant to go into late June. It's supposed to be, you know, at the earliest possible time in June for it to go through immediately. It's not going to go into July, and it's not going to go into August for sure. This is one that United are looking to wrap up as quickly as they possibly can. So, yeah, I think it's it's an interesting update. We also got this update as well from Ornstein saying United are in a strong position to sign Matheus Cunha. Cunha wants to join United, but they will need to agree personal terms, and if that happens, trigger the release clause once it becomes active. Contact with Wolves has not been made yet, but that is not necessary at this point, so it's technically not close yet, but there is an expectation it could well develop pretty rapidly. So again, I think Ornstein and Romano are having a bit of a transfer, you know, rumor news battle going on, because Fabrizio saying one thing, and everything Fabrizio saying, Ornstein is saying the opposite of him. I don't know. They're duking it out for the top spot. Somebody's trying to get the position of king for this summer. I think Ornstein's going for the, you know, he's going for the throne a little bit, because I think they're going back and forth, and they're both saying United want Cunha, but they're saying it in two different ways and two different stories. So, again, interesting. I think, again, both things are possible, because I think both journalists don't know exactly how much money Manchester United have. I don't think they've been told the specific. I see that there's more updates coming out about Cunha as well, so I got to go to the internet to grab those. But I think I don't think any journalist knows exactly how much money we have, and I think it's a little bit of hearsay, because depending on the sources, they might say United do have money. Well, how much money? Well, we don't know, or we can't tell you, or we're not going to tell you. Well, that doesn't really help. Because it doesn't make an indication of, you know, if we know, for example, we have a budget of 100 million right off the bat without European football or without any sales, then you can say, yeah, it is 100% possible for us to go pay this release clause. If United have, you know, less than that, or 60 million or something, maybe it's a little less likely for us to do that. And the reports have been coming out saying that, you know, United are looking at both possibilities. We're looking at either paying the release clause outright and in full, or we're gonna negotiate with Wolves to spread it out over 5 years like we usually do. Fabrizio is saying that we're looking to do it in installments. Ornstein and a couple other journalists are saying that they're looking to trigger the release clause. Again, I think we have to wait and see. I think it can go either way. As of right now, because we're not 100% sure on what money we actually have available. I still kind of feel like for United situation, regardless, I mean, listen, I believe the PSR things. I just don't believe that, like, you know, when they say we're broke, people think broke means like we have like zero. And I don't think that's true, and I don't think it's like that low. Maybe it's broke in terms of a big club trying to spend money, which could be around 60 million, or you know, maybe a little bit higher. But I do think for United, considering writing off 60, now I don't know how the PSR essentially works. I don't know if maybe we sorted our books out a little bit so we can do this deal. If we can just pay the 60 million. But if we're still kind of trying to walk a little bit of a fine line, or we're very, very close to the line of PSR, I think putting the 60 million on this financial year for the club, I don't know if that works necessarily. So I think they would look to do it in installments. I lean a little bit towards installments. It seems like that's probably the better option and the smoother option for us in a certain way, because Wolves, it's been reported that they're willing to do that with us. And Wolves understand the whole PSR thing as well, because they are a Premier League club. And I was thinking about this today. You know, Wolves have that release clause for probably a couple reasons, but I think one of the things that you can say that Wolves has the release clause is so that they're guaranteed that money. You know, they've kind of protected themselves. Like, Cunha can't really, I mean, he can go on strike, but he can't go on strike. I mean, it's there. Like, the fee is set, and anybody can pay it, and there's significant interest in it. So if somebody actually wants him, they can just go and pay it, right? And I think that's sort of been agreed between all parties, between Wolves and Cunha. So, like, his agent, they agreed to that sort of fee as well. And I think they just sort of did that to protect themselves. I don't think Wolves are like, you know, they wouldn't be against taking installments because they're getting the money guaranteed anyway. They just want to make sure that they get that fee. That's what they deemed him is his price. And it leaves them in a stronger position because they're going to get that fee regardless. Whether somebody pays it outright or somebody pays it in installments, I don't think they're too bothered by that. I think that they're just making sure that they get paid what they deem is the value of, you know, one of their best players at the club. And so that they can go and do their transfer business the way they need to do their transfer business. We got this update, by the way, as we were going live, and this was from Fabrizio, saying negotiations for Cunha to United have now entered the final stages. I'm going to go check the internet real quick to see if there was any development after that, that adds a little bit of more information to that, because that's a bit vague. The only line that I really see tagged onto that, other than that initial line, is that so Cunha to United are now in the final stages. United are confident to get the deal done soon, and formal steps will follow. That has come from Fabrizio in the last 20 minutes or so. So it seems like this deal is moving very, very quickly. I think it will be done sooner rather than later, and I think actually we'll probably be announcing this transfer very, very soon. I think we're gonna get a here we go, very, very soon, probably before. I mean, we're at the end of April, so I can't see this dragging out to the beginning of June. I think maybe in the next week or two. You know, based on these words of that Cunha to United enter the final stages, I can't see it, the way it's developed over the past 3 days and how quickly it's sort of moved. I can't see it going longer than another week or two. You know, if everything goes the way it is with the negotiations with Cunha and his team. So, if we get the negotiations with Cunha sorted out from the player side, and the club side, our side, I think it's only a matter of time, because again, then it boils down to, do we actually have the money to pay it outright, or do we not, or do we but we choose to do installments. If we do installments, maybe it'll take an extra week or so, because then we have to go negotiate with Wolves, and to negotiate with Wolves might take, you know, an extra week or two or something like that, depending on how that goes. But if we have the money, we can just and we agreed the deal with Cunha. We just activated and deal's done pretty much, and that's the end of that. And we have our first signing of the summer. So yeah. And Lyle says, I'm amazed at the speed we going with this. Apparently, personal terms could be reached by next week and a further week with Wolves. Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm thinking here. Like, you know, the speed is good, and I think the speed. I think many people are happy about it because we've been, you know, arguing and yelling and screaming for United to actually stop sitting on their ass and move quickly to do deals. And this deal has moved quite quickly because this started very heavily 3 days ago. And you know, at this moment in time, apparently we're in the final stages in negotiations with Cunha, which means that it's only a matter of time. It could be done, you know, in the next 3 days or so. And you know, it, and then if we hit the buyout clause, if we hit the buyout clause directly, this thing could be wrapped up by next week or the week after. I mean, by next week. But if we have to negotiate with Wolves, then maybe it'll take an extra week or so. So I think, you know, I think number one, I think this is, you know, maybe people might be a bit surprised. I'm not that surprised. I'm happy that it's happening. That United are sort of moving this quickly and they're doing this sort of deal. You know, the strength that they're kind of showing that, yeah, we've had a terrible season, but we're not dusted and we're not down and out. You know, we're still here and we're gonna follow through on this project. But I'm not like 100. I'm not completely like blown away because I think, again, last summer, I said this maybe a couple times. Last summer, like, getting our hierarchy in order, they were only there for a short time. Like, yeah, Inos, you know, has been in here for over a year now, but the hierarchy, in terms of, like, you know, if you like the Avengers assemble, like the Avengers only assembled like properly like 2 to 1 months before the window opened. They didn't really have time to like develop a working relationship, get under the same plan, really find their feet. And I still think they did a decently good job. I mean, last summer it got dragged out a little bit, but I think in terms of the amount of signings, the signings that we actually made, I think it was actually very good. And I think they did a good job. And I sort of expected this from them because for them to do their job, they have to be doing things like this. And this was sort of one of my expectations from them, that, you know, give them another year period. Let them be at the club. Let them be working on things, evaluating the squad, evaluating the team, evaluating what the manager needs. And they've had plenty of time. And maybe this is why they did do the move where they got Ruben in November and they didn't wait for the summer. I think those are one of the things that, you know, we actually do have to mention because they get a lot of criticism for that. And I've always said that, yeah, it's bad in the immediate, but it has the potential to actually turn out good later down the line. Because there's certain things that can come out of this. If they do their job properly, we can be in a much better position because we've sort of gotten a head start. And even though the head start has been very bumpy and rocky and not so great, you know, when they made that change in November, for next season, it could make a big difference. You know, because if Ruben came in June, one, he wouldn't have gotten all this experience, and two, he wouldn't have been able to kind of evaluate the squad in real time like he's done since coming in November. I mean, he's trained them, he's managed matches with them, he's seen them in training. He knows much more now than he would have if he came in June of what they sort of can and can't do, where he can and can't play players, you know, the sort of characteristics in the team. So maybe it will actually pay off for next season. And you know, even for the hierarchy, you know, they've had since November, they've been evaluating Ruben, the way he plays, the team's characteristics as well, and what they're going to have to do for when we actually get to June. It's a good amount of time to properly do your homework at United. Whereas if it came in June, you know, yeah, you could start working on things, but it's just not the same. It wouldn't be really the same process. It would be very different. You know, you can take an idea of what the manager wants and what he wants to do, but it wouldn't have gone the same way. So you know, there is a difference there. So if it does go well, I think, you know, I think Ineos would have to get some credit back in the bank, you know, once the summer is over, and hopefully the season gets underway and we actually perform quite well. So Lyle says Wolves are looking for the full release clause up front, but are willing to look for a payment plan, so to speak. Yeah, I think I think Wolves just want the money. They just want that fee. I don't think they're too fussed. I think obviously they would prefer if they get the 62.5 million up front, but I don't think they're like, I don't think they're sitting there and pretty much saying pay the release clause or F off. Because they probably also, at the same time, you have to kind of think about it from Wolves' point of view. They also want this deal done quickly because they know he's going, they know he's not part of the future, and they have a big, you know, they need to improve. They need to go out and improve their team. And the quicker they get this deal done and they get the money in, the quicker they can start going out and doing their transfer business and sort of building their team so that they can stay in the Premier League, because they've struggled as well. And they, you know, in terms of Wolves, they have a big transfer summer for themselves as well, because they have to do well to stay in the Premier League, because if they don't do well, they have a big chance of getting relegated, even though, you know, all the teams that come up have gone down. But I mean, if you don't keep up, you will fall behind, and they are fairly close to the bottom. And I know somebody out there will say, well, so are we. But yeah, but I just feel like the way things have gone, I don't think we'll see this again. We can't see it again, and it can't happen again. It's unacceptable. But I just don't think we'll see this sort of season again. Like, we won't be this low. I don't know how high we'll necessarily go, but I just know that we won't be this low. We won't be 14th. We won't be in the bottom half of the table. So for sure. But 10 Gang Chai says get new keeper to replace Onana. Well, you're not the first person to say that. And there's many people out there that are saying that as well. And I think we got to see what happens on that front. I'm not against it. I think we would do well to do so. I'm a little bit less confident in targets. Like, I can tell you how much I like, you know, a certain striker, or who I think should go there, or a midfielder, or a defender. The goalkeeper's ones that always gives me a little bit of trouble, because I just I never have confidence with the goalkeepers because of United's history with goalkeepers, and I just don't know. I mean, there's one or two, obviously, you throw the names out and you say, yeah, they should be good. But I always have this worry because it just doesn't go well with United, typically. And you just never know. So, I mean, let's see what happens, and let's see how it develops. I think the goalkeeper's a little bit further down on the list. I think, obviously, the striker and the 10 are the top. You know, and then it seems like possibly a midfielder. There's been talk about Ederson today. So, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. It might happen, and like Lion says, anybody getting very excited about Cunha, not grade 10. Well, again, your opinion, Rajat, but you are in the minority. Just so you know, not to put in, not to rub it in your face. I'm just letting you know that the majority of Manchester United fans, last time I did a poll on social media on one of the big accounts, I think we got about 4,000, 5,000 votes, which is good because, you know, it wasn't my post. And I think about like 78% of the people, I asked them if they think Cunha is a good signing for Manchester United, and 78% of people voted yes. So the general sentiment around Manchester United is that Cunha is a good player and he is a good signing for us. So, I mean, if you don't feel that way, that's fine. But I think he's a good player, and I think he fits the system very well, and I think he'll be a good signing for Manchester United and for Ruben Amorim. So let's see what happens there. I'm excited for Cunha. I'm excited that we're working on this deal and we're moving very, very quickly. So, Lyle says Cunha is Prem proven, which is another good point. So I'm excited about what he can bring to our attack. Solid play. I mean, I've seen some lineups already, and you throw Cunha in there with like one or two other players and a striker up there, and the attack and the perspective of the team when you see that lineup. Gives you a sort of a different feeling in your gut there. It gives you a little bit more confidence. It gives you a little bit more strength and belief in the team. So I think it'll be an important signing. I think it's going to be a big signing, and I think it's going to be a very big way to start the summer transfer window for this manager, but for Manchester United and for Ineos. I mean, they have to, you know, they have a little bit of ground to make up with the fans. You know, fans rightfully unhappy about, you know, a lot of things that they've done, especially with the cutting costs and stuff like that. And I always said this when they were doing it. I said, I understand, you know, I understand sort of the hate towards it. I understand people don't like it. I said the only way they can really rectify this is when we get to the summer. Because in the summer is when they can actually do the business. And if you get players in and you remove players, it sort of kind of offsets some of the cuts that they've made and some of the, you know, saving exercises that they've done. It doesn't, you know, we don't want them there. They're not positive things. But, you know, I kind of understand where they come from in the short term. They can't be long-term things. We have to get ourselves under control financially so we can get back on the proper track. And we should be able to, you know, sort of put that money back in. I know a lot of people lost their jobs, but things with the charities, we shouldn't have to continue cutting those things. And then, you know, you would like that if United get into a good position, they can actually start putting more money into charities and actually give back more money and do things that United are used to doing and stuff like that. Grace comes in there asking, what's your favorite planet? I mean, Earth, because I live here. So, yeah, I mean, I can't really have another favorite planet because we can't live on any other planet. So there's only really one option for me. It's this planet that we live on. Some people might argue that they don't like this planet. And I would say let's send them to Mars with Elon. But Lion says he likes Jupiter, and so does Lion. Well, they have an old adage. Apparently, you know, you go to Jupiter to get more stupider. I don't know. That's like 4th grade. I don't know why I said that, but yeah. Rajat says, Prem proven is a myth because Bruno and Cristiano Ronaldo wasn't that. Well, it's not a myth, I would say, Rajat. It just doesn't apply. It's just not, it's not 100% a thing. You know, I wouldn't call it a myth because I think there's arguments to say that there is a difference between some players that already play in the Prem and they're used to the football, you know, and they you know that they can actually handle the league in some sort, whereas players from outside of the league you don't know, and sometimes they don't. And I think a good indication of that is probably like Anthony, and maybe a couple other players. I would even argue maybe Jadon Sancho, you know, did very well at Borussia Dortmund. Outside of England, came to England, sort of took the piss. You know, you could blame United for that, but he's at Chelsea, still taking the piss, pretty much. And Anthony came to England, just you know, looked absolutely horrible, absolutely killing it in you know, in La Liga. So I don't think it's a myth. I think it's fair to say that it doesn't apply to every single player. And it's not 100% dead on because nothing ever is. Again, nothing ever is. That's just saying black and white. And again, black and white is not a thing. Well, to some people it might, but I don't operate in black and white. There's always different sides to different stories. So, yeah, I think, yeah, it's not a myth. I mean, there's players like Bruno and Ronaldo. You are right that they come in here. I mean, but Ronaldo was young and he was, you know, in his first season, it wasn't like he went on a rampage like he did later on. Bruno was older and more developed. And when you compare Bruno to all the other players that we sort of got in, Bruno is kind of the unicorn. Because Bruno came in and hit the ground running, and he pretty much has never stopped. Now he's, you know, he's gone a little bit on and off here and there, but for the most part, for the majority, he came in and there was no adjustment time for him. He just hit the ground running. But if you look at other signings that we got from outside the league, they all pretty much sort of struggle in their own way. Some more, some less, but it takes them a little bit of time to get up to speed in the Prem. You know, I think Maz is one that you can argue that maybe, you know, he's done a little bit better than the others in terms of getting, from the transfers that we gotten, and he's been fairly consistent over the whole season. But Ugarte took quite a bit, and some people don't even like Ugarte still at this moment, and they hate him and they want him out, which I think is kind of sort of ridiculous. I mean, I seen one of these big accounts on Twitter, and I think this guy, I don't even want to say his name because I just don't want to give him any publicity, but this guy has one of the biggest United fan accounts or whatever, and he has some of the worst opinions ever. I mean, he put out a tweet yesterday talking about who would you rather have, or who was better at, they put out a tweet in a poll saying who is better at United, Ugarte or Fred? And I'm like, I'm sorry, Ugarte's been here for not even one whole year yet, and Fred was here for years. I mean, how can you even ask people that question? It literally doesn't make sense to ask that. I mean, if you want to compare their first seasons, go ahead. But to say who was better at Manchester United, Fred, who's played here for multiple years and had multiple opportunities and multiple chances, or a player that joined us late, didn't really have a preseason, took him till November to get up to speed, in terms of just fitness and being match ready, and then finding his feet and finding his chemistry in the team with the new teammates, the manager getting changed at the point that he was getting up to speed. Luckily, the new manager was his manager previously, so it wasn't that bad of a transition. But I mean, some of these guys, I'm like, why do you do things like that? You have a big account. You should feel a little bit more responsibility to what you're doing, because you're causing quite division and you're spreading, in my opinion, hate online. You're spreading hate to a player that hasn't even been here for a year yet. Officially hasn't been here for a year, hasn't even finished the season, and you're trying to say he's more shit than Fred. I mean, the guy hasn't even gotten a proper chance, really. Let's relax. He's part of the squad. He's not going anywhere. I don't understand why we have to tear down these players. He hasn't been bad. Has he been a revelation? I wouldn't say that either. But to try and start tearing him down and say that he's more shit than Fred, I mean, I don't really get it. I don't get it. Why? Fred's not here. Fred's not part of the club, and Fred's not coming back. So I don't get the point of the conversation. I don't get it. Now, if you say maybe there's another person out there that we can go and get, and you start comparing them, makes a little bit more sense. But I just don't understand why they do these things. It actually really pisses me off when they do. But that guy is the worst. He literally has the worst takes. And I'm convinced he does it for interaction because he wants to get paid. And I don't find anything he really says is genuine. He says the most obscene things. And then it questions me how you get such a big following doing those things. I don't know. Maybe it seems like I'm salty. I really don't care. I don't care. I don't care about followers. I don't care about any of that. If I did, I'd do so many things to do it. I don't. It really doesn't matter. I just enjoy genuine opinion and conversation and real conversation. That's all that matters. Grace says, if you was the coach with these current players and told you to get the best out of them, what formation would you play? Probably 4-2-3-1. I gotta take a sip of water. Probably a 4-2-3-1, because that's sort of what the squad was built on. Anyway, and the team hasn't really changed in terms of personnel. We were playing a 4-2-3-1. We've been playing 4-2-3-1 for years, so probably a 4-2-3-1. I would say, in my opinion. Maybe we'll go with a different formation. Grace says she thinks 4-4-2 diamond or 4-2-2-2-2. I mean, could be. I'm just saying that because that's what we played, and that's what sort of the squad was being built off of and around. 4-2-3-1 is what it was. Rajat says 3-4-3 formation gotta be. Well, I mean, we do technically play a 4-3-4. A 3-4-3. Sorry about that. We technically do play a 3-4-3. A 3-4-3 and a 3-4-2-1 are again, numbers on the pitch, like formation numbers, they don't matter too much depending on how you have the players play, the positional roles and stuff. Because when you line up in a 3-4-2-1, and you have the two tens going out wide, it's essentially a 3-4-3. I mean, it operates as a 3-4-3. On paper, it doesn't line up because you have them behind the striker. But if they're going out wide and they're going to the touchline and they're sort of operating more like wingers than central tens, then we are playing a 3-4-3, which is why Ruben's system and Vitor Pereira's system are basically identical. They're literally like the same exact system. Because it's the same. There's literally not much difference, which is why when we played Wolves, we sort of canceled each other out because it's basically the same. So, racist Jupiter have the bees. Well, that's what they used to say when we were like 8 years old. We used to send the girls to Jupiter. They used to send the girls to Jupiter. Jupiter, she gets stupider. That explains it. That's it. That's what that is. I've definitely been to Jupiter. She's taking shots at me now. I've upset Grace. I might have been once or twice by accident somehow, one way or another. Get Alex Moreno. He looks good. No weed. Grace says, Eric, who is better, Ugarte or Fred? I don't know. I mean, listen, I'm not here for revisionism. Fred's time at Manchester United wasn't amazing. We all complained and bitched about Fred. I mean, I guess the most of us. I shouldn't say all of us. That there are people there that liked Fred. There were some qualities that were good with Fred, but I felt like Fred was a very hot and cold player. Sometimes he'd be very good defensively. Sometimes all of a sudden, every 6 months, he'd pull out the Brazilian passport. He'd score you a goal. His passes would be much better than they usually were. I don't think his passing was terrible, but, it would sort of go to an elite level. Ugarte, again, for me, I think they're a little bit of a different type of profile of player in terms of that. I think Ugarte is a more defensive player. Fred, maybe you could say he was a little bit more of an sort of a box-to-box-ish player, a little bit more overall well-rounded. But I can't say... I can't say yet who was better at United because Ugarte's only been here for less than a year. So he needs more time and more opportunities. Let's see what gets out of him. And if it comes to an end, then we can sort of judge it better and more smartly and say, Fred was better than Ugarte. Ugarte was better than Fred. I mean, I know Ugarte, I knew Ugarte. When we signed Ugarte, I actually did a video on Ugarte. And I had statistics about Ugarte. Like I knew right away. Like he ranked very low in percentile for midfielders in terms of creating attacking play and stuff like that. So I know that that wasn't his strong suit. I mean, it was over his whole career. It was never his strong suit. It's not really his thing. His thing is to be, to break up the play and to get the ball back. I think he does that pretty good. I think he can do even better. I don't think he's like world. I don't think he's like. I'm not gonna say he's world class. But I think he can get better and he can do better. In that. But again, first season. Again, I always give them a little bit of leeway. Now, next season, I expect him to step it up. He'll be here for a year. He's gonna get a proper preseason. And he should be improving. And that's really all we need to see from Ugarte is that, next season, we got to say the general sentiment about Ugarte is he's stepped up and he's improved what he's given us from last season. And that's how you really determine if the player is doing good or not. If he regresses, then it's an issue and we have a problem. And now we got to deal with that. It's sort of like Rasmus. Rasmus last year, it wasn't amazing, but it wasn't as bad as it is this season. And, the end of last season, he finished it quite well and quite strongly. And there was this sort of feeling around him that, there is sort of a player in there. And, there was quite some hope that he builds on this for next season, which is this season. And it hasn't gone that way. It's actually gone the opposite way. So I get the criticism more so towards Rasmus because he's regressed. He's done worse this season than he did last season, which we can't have. And now there's the almighty big question marks because we have updates about this that there is a high possibility that he will get sold this summer. And it kind of fits into the direction of the club. So red ball control was quite good. Ugarte has been a unit recently, same as Cass. Maybe Ederson would take Ugarte's spot if they get him here. Well, I don't know if it's necessarily taking his spot. They would both, you know, if Ederson comes in, they both have a role in the team. Who takes the starting spot is up to them. Whoever plays the best. Now, Ugarte could start the season in the starting role because maybe it takes Ederson a bit of time to adjust and, you know, he doesn't hit the ground running. So maybe he starts off on the bench and Ugarte starts off, you know, starting. And if Ederson finds his feet, if we even get Ederson, but if we do, let's say, and he starts performing better than Ugarte, then Ederson will take the spot. But that's what we need in this squad anyway. That's what we need in this team. We need high competition. We don't need one player that is significantly higher than the other player, and that player can't move from the bench to the starting lineup because there's just no way that they're ever going to, you know, reach the output that that player has. We need two players that are going to go, that are teammates, that work as a team together, but also compete in a healthy way for a starting spot. That makes the team stronger as a unit as a whole. So we need that anyway. Grace says, who is better as number 6, McTominay or Casper the Ghost? I mean, they're both good at hiding. So I don't know. That's a bit. Matic says Rajat. Rajat says will like to get Max Odieli back. Don't know, to be honest. Where did he go? I don't think he's coming back. I think we sold him. I might be wrong. Either we sent him on loan or we're selling him with an option to buy back. I think I saw a story maybe last week or something about him. And I think we're selling him or we've sold him. And we have an option to buy him back. And I think we have also a percentage of a sell-on fee as well. So, Rajat says he wants Frankie de Jong. I think that ship has sailed and died. And I don't even know if I would necessarily take Frankie de Jong at this point because it hasn't necessarily gone well. He is a player that gets sort of injured. I think he has good talent, but he does get injured. He does deal with some injury problems there, and I don't think he, you know, I don't think Ruben Amorim would probably want him either. So, almost says if we don't get a high-rated striker that has experience, I'd rather leave it and play Cunha interchange between the front three. I don't want the lap. Well, why can't we do that with the lap, Almo? Why can't we do interchange with the lap? Like if we get the lap and we have Cunha. And we get both. You know, why can't we do? And it's good to see Almo, by the way. Why can't we do that interchange like that? Because I think we need. Regardless, I mean, obviously, I prefer the more experienced striker, and I think we should be getting like you said, a high-rated striker that has experience. I believe I believe fully that that's what we really need. But I've always said that we need a striker regardless. We need one regardless. And I will say this again. I also believe if we sell Rasmus, we need another striker. I still think we need another striker, even with the interchangeable sort of aspect. I just feel I'd feel better and I'd feel more confident and I'd feel like the squad would have better depth and quality if we had 2 actual strikers. I don't think Xerxes is a striker. You can interchange him there if you need be, but I'd rather have 2 set on strikers than have a striker and a maybe. Because Cunha to me, I think is a maybe, even though he's played a lot of that as sort of a center forward. But in my opinion, center forward is more like a 10. Is more like a cam. Is more like, you know, playing in that 10 and behind the striker. He's, you know. So, and he's playing there now anyway. So I think they want him for the 10. They don't want him. I mean, there hasn't been any talk about interchangeability. Maybe that is a plan for them that they're gonna do and that they can do. But I would just feel more confident in the squad if we have 2 set strikers. One, because if one striker, if you know, if the striker we have, I feel like if we get rid of Rasmus and we get in the lap, we're still sort of in the same situation that we find ourselves in now. Obviously Cunha will strengthen that a little bit, but I just don't. To to me, it just doesn't fill me with the utmost confidence. I would prefer to have two set strikers, and you can have interchangeability as well, because if we have two strikers, if one gets injured, we're down to one, and then we have to do the interchangeability thing anyway, because what if that striker isn't playing well either? What if he's not performing? You know, the number of minutes that striker is going to play. You're going to have to rotate them. You're going to have to, you know, save them some minutes and stuff. You know, and if we have just one striker, I think it will be a problem. I think it will be an issue. So again, I would prefer if we get Osimhen or Ugarte as the striker. They seem set on Delap. And I'll take Delap and Cunha together. But if they sell Rasmus, then I feel like we got to get another striker. I think it's fine to a certain level. It fills me with a little bit less confidence if it's Delap Rasmus over, you know, Osimhen Rasmus or Osimhen Delap or something like that. It fills me with a little bit less confidence, but I mean, I guess we'll see how it goes. You know, I think Delap is a decently good player. I think you could say he's better than Rasmus as of right now. And I think, you know, you look at some of the goals he scored, you look at sort of his output in a sort of poor performing Ipswich Town that's getting relegated, and I think he's done fairly good in considering those circumstances. So Maxi is at Legia Warsaw, so Poland. We're in Poland. Almost as Ahmad R10, Bruno L10, and Cunha striker looks very good to me. Yeah, and I think those are options. Like, I think we can do that in the match, in matches. I think it depends on the opposition. See, that's one thing about Ruben's system, and that's why I want us to have as many options as possible, because a lot of people argue, or one of their criticisms towards Ruben is that he needs to learn. He has to have a backup plan. And, you know, in their mind, the backup plan means, you know, switching from a 3-4-2-1 to play, I don't know, a 4-3-3 or, you know, a 4-3-2-1 or something like that. And I don't think that is necessarily the case because, again, numbers in terms of formations, it's not the be-all and end-all. It's really just numbers. It's about how the team has the shape and what the roles are of the players. And I think the more options he has to switch players around with different sort of characteristics that they bring on the pitch, the more backup plans he has. I think he can keep the number in terms of whether it's 3-4-3, 3-4-2-1. I think he can keep that the same. And then depending on who you put in what role, the aspect of the team changes. So sort of like what you're saying. I mean, if if we play a match against a certain team, maybe you can put Ahmad and Bruno as 10s, and you could put Cunha as striker. But maybe for different matches with different tactical, making tactical adjustments, maybe you don't put Ahmad as 10. Maybe you put him as wing back that match. You put Cunha and Bruno next to each other, and you have somebody else as the striker. The more options he has, the better he can play around, and the better he can adjust the team to do slight tactical adjustments for different sorts of matches. When you play more physical teams, you might have to use certain different players, and the roles might be adjusted in a certain different way. If you play a more open game with more pace, maybe you have to put certain players in different positions to match that match. So I think the more options he has, the better. And I think with two strikers, he'll have more options than with just one striker and a maybe. Because I consider them a maybe. Because Cunha, they're saying he's for the 10. Can you play him striker? You can. He's played there. He's played centre forward more so. Sort of like a false 9 in some sort of way at times. But you can play him there. But, I mean, like, Delap is a striker. He's not playing any other position. He's a striker. And Osimhen is a striker. He's not playing any other position. Those are kind of dead on, nailed on. And I think it's just better for the balance of the team. So almost as Cunha is it's the perfect left 10 that we need, but he can also play as a striker, as we mentioned yesterday. So that is an option. Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why they like him, actually, because I think We're going for this sort of multifaceted, multi-position type of player. Obviously, I think, you know, they're going to be used specifically more in one position. But the point is, for Ruben's system to really work, you have to have players that can, so when he does adjustments, and so that he can actually do proper adjustments, they have to be able to play more than really one position. I think the striker is a little bit different, but in terms of the other personnel, like Cunha, it does help that he can play striker or 10. Bruno, you can play him as 10 or you can play him deeper. Ahmad, you can play him as 10, you can play him as wing back. You know, you can, each player probably has about 2 positions. That's why I think Garnacho is sort of a problem to this, because he doesn't really fit that. I don't think Ruben thinks that he can use Garnacho anywhere else other than the 10. And I also feel like Garnacho's profile, he wouldn't fit anywhere other than the 10. Because I just don't think he'll do it at wingback. I just don't think it's the same. Like Ahmad can do it. So, Rajat says, mean that Bruno Fernandes can also play there as a full striker like he did. I mean, that is an option. I don't think, you know, I don't think he necessarily wants to do that. I think if he had to do it, he might. But for me, so it means that, like, Bruno can play 10 and Bruno can play deeper in the midfield, depending on the opposition, depending on what options we have available. You can switch, because there's Mount as well. And if Mount stays fit, Mount's going to be another option, and he's going to be in there as well. And Ruben really likes Mount, and Mount's going to be, you know, going for that starting spot if he stays fit and is available. So he's also another one that's going to go into that 10. So there is a lot of interchangeability, which I like. I want that. I want that pretty much as possible in every position we have. You know, I think it's good, for example, even somebody like Luke Shaw, who's unreliable, but... And even Maz. Like, Maz, you can play him wing back if we need him to. We don't necessarily need him to, but we've been playing him right center back, which is good because, you know, if we have some sort of injury crisis at right wing back, we can use Maz there. Shaw is sort of the same. Shaw, you can play him left wing back if he stays fit and he's available, which I don't think he ever will be. But when he is fit and available, you can play him left wing back, but you can also use Luke Shaw as a left center back. He's played there before. He's done well there before. And we know he can play there. So the more options that we can pick between these players, the better for Ruben and for the squad. So yeah, I don't know about, I mean, almost saying I'd rather wait till next summer, not this summer, and get Isaac from Newcastle. I think we need a striker this summer. I don't think that they can just be like, yeah, no striker and go with Rasmus. I think we've seen how that gone. And again, that's why I'm saying I think we need 2 10s. Because, yeah, you could say we could put Xerxes there. Again, I rate Xerxes more of a 10. I think Cunha's different than Xerxes. I think Cunha could probably play striker better than Xerxes. But again, I think Cunha is dead on for the 10 position. And if you need him to, you can play striker. But I don't really want that sort of dynamic in the squad. I don't want like a striker and a maybe. I want 2 strikers so that we have 2 strikers, so that we have 2 dead on options. And then we need a third anyway, probably, because I assume one of them will pick up injuries. I mean, I assume the striker will pick up an injury. Who knows how long it could be? I mean, if we're unlucky, it could be season ending, and then we're screwed. You know, that's my one thing. Like, if we get Delap and Rasmus goes, and we just have Delap, and Delap gets a season-ending injury, or he's out for months, you know, then we're doing this interchangeable thing, and we're kind of taking away from the squad, because we'll say that, you know, Cunha is stronger at the 10. Well, now we got to move Cunha to the striker position for basically all the games. And now we're putting, you know, other players that maybe they're not starting. They're there. Maybe Xerxes comes in, or Mount, or Bruno is there. And maybe now we can't shift Bruno back, and we can't, you know. And then there's also Mainoo. You know, what are we going to do with Mainoo? Is he going to play deeper? Is he going to play forward? Ruben seems to like the idea of having Mainoo up and around in the box, also somewhere around the 10. So it can work sort of both ways. I just feel, I would just feel better if we had 2 strikers, if we had 2 options. You know, if that is Rasmus, and Delap. I mean, listen, if they get Delap and they keep Rasmus, it's not my essential pick, but I could also see like how Almost saying, because you can get the Delap and maybe he'll be here for a season, and if Rasmus season doesn't go so well, and he stays, this summer and goes into next season, for next summer, you can then sell Rasmus, and then maybe you go and get, a more proven and highly experienced and elite sort of striker, maybe an Isaac from Newcastle. Although I think Isaac from Newcastle, is kind of out of our range right now. Now maybe next season it changes, but he's going to be very, very expensive, and there's a lot of there's a lot of competition for him as well. And it's not just from the Prem either. It's from outside as well. So yeah, Fabrizio said this right when we went live. So, and I'll check again before we get off to see if we got any other updates. It is in the final stages. He did say this. He gave us this update right when we went live. So, final stages, he's saying, just to clarify, he's saying between United and Cunha. So negotiations for the player's side. Not final stages like, it's going to be announced next week per se, but just negotiations between Cunha and United to have a contract, to get it signed, and to get those sort of things out of the way. And then it's going to go one of two ways. If we have the money, David Ornstein is saying that we're looking to execute the and trigger the buyout clause. And then Fabrizio is saying that we're more interested in doing installments. If we do installments, we got to obviously negotiate with Wolves, which might drag out the thing being done maybe an extra week or two. If we have the money, which Ornstein is alluding that we have the money, because he said that we have, he said we have money and our transfer targets are set regardless of Europa League, winning the Europa League or sales. So if that's the case, then when we agree this, we can actually just trigger it, and he should be ours basically immediately. So it could be done much quicker. I think it's interesting because we're at the end of April. So like this deal, the way it's developed over the past 3 days, you would say in the next somewhere by, I can't see it going past the second week of May at this point in time. I mean, we still have to see how it develops over the next couple of days, but I mean, Fabrizio is saying that, we're in the final stages of negotiations with the player. I don't see how it can take past the second week in May. And it could be done quite quicker or quite sooner than that. Don't want Rashford returning to United, says Rajad. Well, I don't think you have to worry about that. I don't think I think he knows that his time is done. So I think he'll be looking elsewhere. Now, there is a possibility that it might take some time to get him out, because one of the things is that Villa, he wants to play for a Champions League club, and if Villa doesn't get Champions League, he might not. He probably won't want to stay at Villa, and therefore he's going to have to get another move somewhere else. One location might be Barcelona, depending on if they want him and if they can come to agreements on, a salary and a fee as well. So that might go a little bit in the other direction, where it might not be as quick as maybe we thought it might if, he was to stick at Villa. There's some matches left in the Prem, and maybe Villa somehow sneaks in there and they do get Champions League, and maybe it sorts itself out, or maybe they just sort of don't, it just doesn't happen. I mean, it's looking kind of like the latter, like it's not going to happen, but they still have a possibility of doing so, depending what happens in the remaining matches of the league. So, yeah, it's not done, like Rajat says. It's not done until United pay the clause. But the negotiations between the player and the club in terms of a contract and hashing out the details is in the final stages. So Rajat says Cunha is left attacking midfield, the second striker, and his first year he was deployed to center forward striker. but it wasn't that successful. Yeah, and I mean, he's played a lot of games there. Even at Atletico, he played like kind of center forward striker, and that's what I'm saying. Like, he can play there if we need him to, but he's not. He's not Delap and he's not Osimhen. Like, it's not. They're not. Delap, Osimhen, and Gyökeres. They're strikers. They're strikers, and that's it. Also, I do also kind of worry a little bit because that striker role is very demanding. I mean, you have to do a lot. You need to be part of the build-up. You need to run up and down. You need to initiate the press. It's a lot of stress in terms of, like, on the body to play that role, which is why I think we need two strikers to fill out the depth properly. It just makes everything a better situation. You have two strikers. You have Xerxes and Cunha. You can rotate in there when and if you need them to. I just think it's better for us all around. I don't think it hurts in any way to have the two strikers. I think it's just a positive. So I would prefer it. But they have their plan and they have their ideas. So let's see what they do and let's see what it gives us. Almost as Garnacho for me doesn't fit the system. He needs to leave. And I think he certainly doesn't, as of right now. I think, Ruben has been trying his best to try and, I guess, get him to do that 10 role. And I think that's why I kind of feel like Garnacho has a big chance of leaving, because he doesn't really fit anywhere else in the team. His position would be 10. And I think from the way we're talking about things, we have an abundance of 10s at this point at some level. And he doesn't really offer any other position that he's going to be able to play. So, and I think, he's been trying him out there. He's been trying to develop him. Maybe it hasn't gone so well. Maybe he's frustrated with it. Maybe he's like, listen, this isn't, maybe he's made the determination that this isn't going to work. I can't use this kid here. And while he does have some talent, it's just he's not going to fit into the team. And he's sort of done this thing at Sporting as well. Whether it was an experienced player or inexperienced player, he's kind of, when he's gotten the opportunity, he's kind of thrown them out of the team and replaced them. So, yeah, I think there is a big possibility that Garnacho does go for that. Almost as I'll give him out one more season, but if he fucks up this season, I want him out. Well, I agree with you, because that's where I've been at, and that's where I've been saying pretty much this whole season. Because I do think that there is a player there in Mount. I just think that it's hard to kind of really judge him and determine if there isn't or there isn't a player. I feel like there is a player, but I'm not going to say 100% dead on. It's just hard to judge because the guy hasn't been available and because of his injuries, which is another problem. And I think if he sustains some sort of, if he goes about next season like he's gone about this season and last season, then just, forget the ability. And forget if he's good enough in terms of ability. He's not good enough in terms of availability. And we can't have that. So for me, I feel like if he stays fit and he stays healthy, I think he'll be able to get a better form and he'll be able to actually, perform on a consistent level. And then I think we'll be able to see what his strengths and weaknesses and how good he actually is at Manchester United, and we can actually make a determination of, like, is this player actually good enough, or was it actually a bad buy? Once again, because we've done many of them, and many of them have not worked out. So, almost says, I'm not saying go with Rasmus. I'm saying we can interchange between Bruno and Cunha for the 9. Even Ahmad can play there sometimes. Yeah, but we can. But I think you can do that with with two strikers. And I'm not saying, just keep Rasmus, but I kind of feel like we're doing that now, and I feel like we're not doing that now anyway, because Bruno it hasn't ever been put there. I think maybe he did it once for like 20 minutes, and he so for me, in my opinion, Ruben doesn't see Bruno playing there. Cunha, you make the argument for, and I get that. That makes sense. And then there's Xerxes, of course. But I don't know. I just feel like when we start doing that, we start playing around. We're changing we're changing the attack a little bit too much at that point as well. If we have two set strikers, even if it's Delap and Rasmus, I would feel better than it just be just the lap. You know, I know people don't like Rasmus or they want him sold. I get it. But I'm just saying, just to even have two strikers and have two options, I think will be better because we never know what's going to happen. I mean, there could be injuries. There's lots of games. If we get in the Champions League, we're obviously going to be playing more games. I think it's less of a problem if we don't get in Champions League because then we're playing less games and we should have more rest in between time and we should have less injuries and less strain on the players and stuff like that. But yeah, I just think having two strikers, there's really no downside to it, other than you might make the argument, well, I would use that money. But we need a striker anyway. People don't want just Rasmus, right? Everybody wants some sort of a striker, whether that's Delap, Ugarte, or Osimhen. They want a striker, so you kind of have to spend the money anyway, regardless. It's just more of a matter of a fact of if they keep Rasmus or they sell him. And I think if they sell him, we're kind of still in a similar situation that we're in now. I feel like if we get the lap and they keep Rasmus, we're in a different situation. And I think it's slightly better than what we have and what we're going for right now. What if Ruben's plan is to integrate Cheetah Obi Martin as the striker backup bench option? Well, I think there might be a slight plan for that. But I think Ruben and probably many of us, you know, I think he wants more experience because it's a very important role and it's a hard role. And the more experienced and the more talented you are, I think he's more confident with that. I think that's really what he's shooting for there. I think because Cheeto, he's young and there's potential there, but these young guys with the lack of sort of experience, again, you never know what you're going to get out of them. They could score a hat trick. They could have an absolute stinker. You know, so I don't think he wants to necessarily entrust that front line to just Cheeto, but I think Cheeto has a role that he's going to play, and I think he'll be involved, and maybe he'll be the third option, in some sort of way or another, because I think, again, I also it depends. Like, you know, if we're in Europe, we're going to have to play a lot of matches, so we're going to need a bigger squad. If we're not in Europe, then we actually don't need as big as a squad as we kind of have now and as we're kind of, you know, speculating and shooting for, because we're going to be playing a lot less matches. So I think that kind of might have a determining factor as well, because but yeah, I mean, the kids will get opportunities as well. So I just don't know how much of an opportunity Cheeto's going to get, but I think he'll get opportunities here and there. But yeah, I mean, even in that sense, like Delap is further ahead than Cheeto is in terms of development. Like, you know, I wouldn't say let's go with Rasmus and Cheeto. That doesn't fill me with confidence, because Rasmus, we don't know what's happening if he even stays. But if he stays, we don't know what's happening with Rasmus. I mean, we don't know what season he's gonna have. You know, it's been a really bad season, and he has like no confidence, so he might not recover from that. It might just be the same or worse. And you might argue that, you know, it can't get worse, but it might be the same or worse. And then you have to rely on just Cheeto. So can't really do that either. Mainoo is not really that clinical to play 10. Well, I mean, he scored some goals in and around that box. He scored some important goals. I think he is sort of clinical. I just think that Mainoo is still kind of a little bit of Mainoo is still sort of kind of a bit of a blank canvas in a sense. We haven't really decided where we'd like to stick him. I mean, at one point it seemed like he was going to be in the midfield deeper, but now with Ruben here, and Ruben's been playing him when he's gotten the opportunities, he's been playing him more up top. So, and since he's still young, I think it can go either way. So I think Mainoo has number one, I think Mainoo has the composure to play there. And I also think he has the IQ to play there. I think his skills need to develop a little bit more. but I think actually he has a decent shot. He scored some good goals when he gets in and around that box for us, and some important goals. So I think there's potential for him to grow there as well. You know, he's not like on Cunha's level in terms of playing that role, but I think we can develop into a player that is very excellent in playing that role. So we got to see how that sort of goes. Lions says, personally, I would let Obi go out on loan in the championship, potentially at Leicester. Heck, I would do the same for Højlund. Well, for Cheeto, I can understand that because he is still fairly young, and maybe it's a better option for him to get some more football, depending on the squad size that we have and the squad size that we need and what we really do. Because, you know, being sort of the third option, if we have two strikers, you're not really going to get that much game time as you would, you know, if you're just a second option. So I guess it depends what they do. I wouldn't be opposed to loaning him out because I'm not opposed against loans, especially when it's for these younger players. You know, it always depends on how they fit into the plans. Like if the plan is set and you're looking at him and you come to the conclusion like, yeah, he's not really gonna play that much, then I would say just give him a loan so he can actually play like some 47 matches in the season, sort of like Diallo, and get some good experience, you know, in the championship or something like that, in a team that fits him well, and let him develop, so that we don't waste his time, and we can continue, and he can continue to grow. So, Temazin says he wants Osimhen, Nico Williams, Cunha, Ederson, Delap, but well, we have a story about Ederson, so we'll get to that as well. What about Kobbie next season? Interchanging in that 10 position. He looks good, young player that we got there. Be a shame not to play him. Maybe he's too young, but he looks good to me. I mean, I think he can do. I think he can. I think Ruben. I mean, we don't know exactly, but it seems like Ruben is sort of pushing that because he kind of made that initial change. I mean, he's put him at striker twice, which I don't think he should really play there. But as a 10. In some sort of way, I think he does well there. You know, and he scored the goal playing in that position when we were in Lyon, and you know, he's just back from injury, so we got to wait and see. And I think Ruben is sort of leaning towards that direction, so I think we could do that. So the lap under 30 million euros would be great, but realistically, not sure Ipswich will sell him that cheap. Well, he has a buyout clause, and his buyout clause is, it's 30 or 40 million. So there's a little bit of added fees to that, something in the contract or something like that, with the buyout clause. It might be slightly a little bit over with like add-ons, but the initial buyout is it's 30 or 40 million. So yeah. No, Tottenham's not allowed to win trophies because they're Spurs and they're Spursy and they can't do it. They're allergic to winning. Yeah, they're not allowed to win it because that's their club. They're never allowed to win trophies. Not because we hate them or anything, but just because that's Tottenham. They're not allowed. If that beat us in the Champions League decided league final, it will scar me for life, and that's how I feel because they're literally not allowed to have trophies. It's against their club philosophy to own a trophy. And if they beat us in a Champions League decider to get a trophy, I will walk around with shame, and my head held down for pretty much the rest of my life. Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to lose it to your big rivals, but to lose it to Tottenham, no, we can't be doing any of that. So, almost as Mainoo is very clinical of our few and far between players that are clinical on the pitch. He is, and I think, you know, Ruben mentioned last time as well that he operates good in tight spaces, and I actually agree with that. You know, I've kind of been saying that, but just like in a sort of different way. When I say that Mainoo has good composure, when I say that he has the IQ, I think that's what that means. And he operates good in those tight spaces, in and around those areas. And I think that's because he has those qualities. I mean, the composure he's always had it. Since the first time he came into the first team, he played like an absolute pro, because he was so composed. composed, he was calm. And he coupled that with his ability, which is also good as well. So I would even play Mainoo as a false line because he's very clinical when he gets in the box. Well, I think, yeah, we can do it depending on circumstances. I don't think it's something that, like, I don't think that's something to, like, do, you know, as the main, I guess, tactic or way we're going to set up. But I think it's an option as well. And again, that's what I like the most about Ruben's system and sort of this whole aspect is that we have all these players actually, if they're fit and we have as many options as possible, there's so much interchangeability that we could do. It transforms the team in so many different ways. There's different characteristics. There's different ways we could play about it. There's so many different roles that we can kind of change on the pitch and go about in a match or matches. So I like that aspect very much. And I think the best for Ruben is to get as many players that can play multi-position as possible. Because I think it'll just help him in terms of managing matches and, you know, setting up tactics for different opponents and stuff like that. So Lion says Ahmad loaned to Ibrox was crucial in his development. Perhaps a similar move for Cheeto. That old firm match would make any boy a man. Yeah, I mean, it could very well be. And I think it probably makes more sense, Lions, to loan him out. Considering that, you know, we're asking for a proven striker and that we need another striker. And I'm saying that we need two. I think with two, the third, it's very hard to get them a good amount of game time for them to actually develop. So, and you know, with the whole speak of the interchangeability, I think we don't actually even need a third. I think a two is more than plenty. And I think for Cheeto, we probably should loan him out to get some experience. Because, I think he's good. I don't think he's ready. And I think we should just continue to sort of develop him a little bit more. And that position is a little bit harder. Again, the striker position in Ruben's is one that's very important, but it's also one that's very demanding. You have to be able to do a lot of things. It's not just about putting goals. It's not just about putting goals into the net. You have to do a lot of things. You have to initiate the press. You have to come back. You have to create the play. You have to get involved in the attacking aspect as well. Once picking up the ball and helping the attacking play develop, you got to get into the box. You got to get back into the play. It's a lot of running up and down, and running all over the place. It's one that's very demanding. It's actually a very hard role. It's more than just being there and making sure you're getting shots on target and you're putting goals in the net. You know, it is a big demand. So I think that's why we need players that can actually really play that position quite well. Mainoo and Ahmad are two players we have that operate in tight spaces. Cunha also does. Yeah, I would say Ahmad is one as well. I think he does a very, very, very good. You know what I really like the most about Ahmad is that he's done it a couple times and he's scored goals from it. I like his determination to do the defensive work as well. One, I think he's actually good at it for an attacking player, but I like that he sprints back and he'll dispossess somebody, take the ball from him, and all of a sudden start a counterattack out of it. I really like that aspect of his game. It adds a certain characteristic to the squad that we sort of miss. Sometimes I say when I watch United, we struggle to kind of win the ball back, and we need to do a better job of retaining the ball when we win it back. There's a lot of times when I'm watching the match where we're okay defensively as a unit in terms of shape, but we struggle to sometimes get the ball back. We take too long allowing the other team to hold the ball in our half. And when we do good to stick a foot in there or, you know, get a touch on the ball, we just sort of miss this. I don't know. It seems like it's a bit of unluckiness or lack thereof of luck that like we touch the ball, we put a block on the ball goes directly back to the opponent, and then we have to spend another 5 minutes watching them pass it around and waiting for them to F up again. But Diallo is quite good at getting the ball back. I like that aspect of him. Also, you know, obviously there's the attacking output, but I like Ahmad. I mean, he just, the way he plays both sides of the game, the way he just plays the overall game, and that you can play him 10, you can play him wing back. We need more players like that. We need more players like that. We need more players with his mentality, with his sort of attitude, the way he operates on the pitch. We need more players like that. Ahmad was results when the club screwed up getting Jadon Sancho deal done. I mean, you know, that's also just, I always find it quite ironic and funny because, again, we spent so much money on Sancho and he was supposed to be this baller. And we bought Ahmad and nobody knew why we bought Ahmad. And nobody really knew too much about Ahmad either. But he didn't play a lot of games and we paid a significant amount of money for him. And everybody thought, well, we paid this much money, he's going into the team. And it transpired to the point where it seemed like he wasn't even going to make it. It seemed like we were going to sell him. It was similar to Dalot in a sense that, you know, Dalot was sent to AC Milan and it seemed like he was going to get sold. And there are two stories where they come out on the other end and they're actually good players for United. And they're important. But I find it ironic always because to me, that's also the biggest difference. You know, the qualities I see in Ahmad, I never saw them at Jadon Sancho at Manchester United. I never saw him do the things that Ahmad does, and that to me is the big difference maker in players. And that's why I say we need more people and we need more players like Ahmad. We need less players and we need to completely avoid people like Jadon Sancho. But we need more players like Ahmad. I think it's a difference in mentality and attitude, and not just ability. I think the biggest difference between them is mentality and attitude, and it makes a huge difference. Almost says Ahmad for me, definitely Yamal level. I truly believe that probably not as good, but he is very technical and our best player by far. I think he is. I think he has the potential to be a top player. Let's hope he stays injury free, because he's had 1 or 2 injuries, and you know, we don't want him to get worse. So hopefully it stays well. And yeah, and we bought Ahmad for 37 million, like Lyle says. So you know, almost as bargain. Like, yeah, now you would say bargain, yeah, but at the time we were like, bro, what the hell? Like, how good is this guy? And we paid 37 million for him, and there wasn't really a plan for him because he didn't get put into the squad. And Ollie didn't seem like, Ollie didn't seem like he knew anything about the signing. That was more of like the club did that signing, and it was Ollie's job to do something with him, and they just didn't really know what to do. Almost says Ahmad is a proper footballer, modern day. I love him. Sky the limit. Yeah. So hopefully it goes well. Grace says Ahmad is injury prone. He needs to go. Nah, I don't think so. I don't think you could say that yet, and he definitely doesn't need to go. With the way he performs, even with the injuries right now, even with the injuries right now, you would still give him a shot because he's been good. And you would hope that he kind of gets out of that injury thing. I don't think he's injury prone. Injury prone that's not injury prone. He's had 2 sort of bad injuries, but they're different injuries and they're different circumstances. And you can't write off a player based off of those 2 injuries. I would say even the same for like Martinez. You can't really write them off as injury prone just yet. Dalot didn't need AC Milan. He was already our best player when he signed for us. Yeah, but he was almost showing the door. And I didn't want him to, because I actually really liked him at the time. I remember talking to my Portuguese friends because, again, I got one that's a Porto fan, and that's where we got him from. And I was actually very upset because I was like, I felt like we never gave, at the time, I felt like we didn't really give him a proper chance. And I was like, dude, they're going to sell this guy without even getting a proper chance. And I was like, I actually like the player. I think he'll be good for us. And it seemed like he was going to get sold to Milan. And then there was that U-turn, and I was really, really happy because I was like, I know he's going to be a good player. to a certain level. But I was like, he's going to be a good player. And I didn't want him sold. And thankfully, we didn't sell him. And actually, he's been quite important for us. So, and he's been useful, for sure. Almost a Jaden came on in the beginning of the season, the very first start. It was against Newcastle, I think, and he just looks out of place for a minute one. Well, you know, United had the preseason, not this season, but last season when United did the preseason in America. I went to the game versus Arsenal. I was at the match, and that was when, you know, Jaden sort of came back from that little hiatus, and he had that whole bad problem, and Ten Hag played him. I think he played him as a false nine, I'm pretty sure. And Jaden actually scored a goal in that match, and it was a very good goal. And I remember when I was there at the match watching it, and I saw him score that goal. Number one, I actually, believe it or not, for my disdain for the player, but I was actually cheering Jaden on. I was screaming for him, and I was clapping that he scored that goal, and I was saying, come on, Jaden. I was like, let's go. And it seemed like maybe there was a page turning there. And then the season started, and it went all completely to shit. And it went completely the opposite direction that I had the feeling when I watched that match. When I watched that match, I was like, okay. I was like, he looks good. And I was like, and maybe he's going to get a new role in this position. And then when we started the season, and from that point forward, it just went the complete opposite way of the way that I felt like it was going to go. So that was disappointing for me as well. But I mean, you know, didn't Ruben say that United needs to have Bruno type players on the pitch? Maybe that's an exaggeration. I mean, yeah, you know, Bruno type players is also not a bad thing to have as well. I mean, Bruno is always available. He's always fit. He's always running around. And he hates to lose. He hates to lose. So, you know, and he has good quality as well. He has good quality and he has good ability. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with that either. We need players like Bruno. We need players like Ahmad. We need more players. You know, even Diego Dalot. One thing that I always love about Diego Dalot is I admire his mentality. I admire his mentality, and I admire his attitude on the pitch. I do. I think it's good. You know, it's when Dalot speaks as well, when he does interviews, if you ever read them or watch him speak, I think he handles himself very well. He's very professional, and I like that. I rate that very highly in players. And he's certainly matured over the past, you know, from when he was a bit younger. I think Ronaldo helped him with that. I think his relationship with Cristiano Ronaldo helped him immensely, and sort of unlocked that little bit of potential that he had in that aspect in terms of mentality, attitude, you know, and really taking things seriously and looking after himself and doing the proper things and making sure that he's on the correct diet. And, you know, he's, you know, players always going to have a dip in form, or they might make mistakes, and, you know, he's no exclusion. You know, no player is perfect. Ronaldo and Messi have fucked up plenty of times as well. But yeah, I think, you know, he handles it quite well. When he does have a dip in form, he always comes back and he always plays good, and that's because he has a strong mentality and he has a good attitude. And, you know, he sort of has that fire on the pitch as well. Like I like when they celebrate the defensive actions, and he's getting all angry and he's getting all fired up, and he's like going over and he's like slapping the hands of his teammates in the defensive unit, and he's like, you know, kind of egging them on, like, you know, let's go, like, let's get pumped, like, let's do our job. So, you know, I like that. I like players like that. I think it's important to have them in the squad, and you know, there's nothing wrong. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be the number one right wing back in the world, although Grace will tell you that he is, which is fine. But I'm just saying, in terms of whatever you want, statistics, right? He doesn't have to be the number one most sought, where, you know, the entire world agrees that he is number one. But to have a player like Dalot that has the ability and the mentality and the attitude that he has is very important, and it's very good for the squad. And that's what we need to have The whole squad has to be like that. The whole squad has to be rounded out like that in almost every position. We need all these sorts of players, these good attitude, good mentality, with ability and potential and longevity sort of players. So, Martinez will be sold. He will have 1 year left next summer, so no way he gets a new contract. Maybe. I mean, maybe they sell him with the 1 year left. We will have 1 year left next summer. Yeah, so maybe they sell him with the 1 year left. But I guess maybe it depends how this summer go. This next season goes. Maybe it depends how next season goes. I mean, if he doesn't get a bad injury and he's fit for most of the season and he performs well, maybe they give him a new contract. I think they're smart to not give him a new contract at the current moment because, again, I understand. I like Martinez. Again, I think he's one of those players that has good attitude, good mentality, and I think he has good ability as well. And I think when he's available and he actually can play, you know, a good run of games, he's actually good. I rate him. But we can't have a player that has major injury problems, and there's certainly question marks over that. So I think they're actually doing the proper thing in not giving him a new contract at this moment. I actually think they should sort of let it play out. There's not much you can really do. Number one, he's injured, so nobody's really looking at him right now anyway, and I don't think there's any plan to really sell him this summer. And I think the only possible course of action is you evaluate him for next season and see what happens. If he suffers another bad injury, he's 1 year left in his contract, you move him out. You can't take that risk because you can't give him a new, 3, 4, 5 year deal with that sort of injury record. But if he doesn't have that and it's cleaned up and he performs well, then maybe you can actually give him a contract extension because I think he would make an argument to earn it. So I don't know. Yeah, the Jaden deal was dumb because all the deals that we did prior to sort of Inos coming in, I mean, they were all dumb. I don't think we had really any one good deal. I mean, Bruno was good and some of them kind of developed, but for the majority, I mean, the previous regime, they like, 90% of the deals they did were bad. 10% were good or came out good. And probably came out good was maybe a little bit of luck because I really feel and believe that they never had a plan and they didn't have a clue what they were doing. So I think they got a little bit lucky on some signings. But when you're getting 90% of the transfers wrong, you're doing something really, really wrong because you're not going to get 100% right, but you need to be getting 65% at the very least correct. To be realistic. But even when he signed, it didn't look right. I don't know what it was. It just didn't feel right. Even for me, I wasn't sold on him, Almo. I wasn't. Everybody was going crazy about Sancho. I felt it was a bit overhyped. I felt like the price was a bit overhyped. I think part of that is because he's English, but also, I was a bit. I always have this thing about the Bundesliga. Like Bundesliga to me, there's like, there's no defense when you compare it to the Prem. It's like it's totally different. So I feel like people that are attacking options in the Bundesliga, like they look absolutely world class. When you come to the Prem, it's like totally different. Now, maybe Malen is doing okay, but I think generally when players come from the Bundesliga to the Prem, they tend to not do well. I mean, Timo Werner was unstoppable. Comes to the Prem, dog shit. Sancho was doing crazy things at Dortmund. Comes to the Prem, horrible. So like, I don't know. It's something about that. I just never really felt like. I always felt like the fee was too high. I didn't really like it. It seemed very risky to me. I never felt so confident about it. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I wanted him to do good. I wanted to be sort of proven wrong, and that all these other people that were getting carried away, making all these Sancho videos and saying he's an absolute baller and this and that. I was hoping they were right, because we kind of needed that to be the case. We needed somebody to kind of transform. But it just didn't work out, because again, it's poor recruitment. It's poor recruitment. It's just poor recruitment. So, Delo needs to stay here. Delo's going to stay. Delo's not going anywhere, so we don't got to worry about that. Maybe not our fans rate him, but he's readily available, which Ruben has alluded to as well. Typically, he's not out injured, and that is true. That is also another good point that I didn't bring up. And rate his work, hard work and mentality. Yeah, yeah. So I don't really understand. There's some of the fans, they have a little bit of a Diego Delo hate. I don't really get it. There's some people, they really don't rate him at all. I don't really understand it. I don't understand that. I don't understand why they complain about him. I think he actually provides a lot more positives than negatives. I think some fans, maybe they get a little bit carried away. They want to they want world class in every single position, which is never. It's not even possible. Like, they just want, whoever the best player is in the world at that position, they want that player, and they compare that player to, like, the player we have, and they just say, oh, but, like, that player's dog shit compared to him because he's not as good as him. And I'm like, but that's not true, though. That's not true. Like, only one person can be number one in the world. And actually, he does actually very good for us. So, but Gray says that he's the best right wing back and left wing back and striker in the world. So there you go. Delo celebration, cold pulls. Yeah, I like the celebration too. It's a cold celebration. And when he scores goals, they usually tend to be bangers as right back. Yeah, and that's another thing that I think also, like, I want to see him actually do that a little bit more, because I think that was one of the things that I wanted him to stay at United. I always felt like, at Porto, he actually was quite good at that. And in the beginning of United, it didn't really transpire. And I was like, but I know that's in his game. I know he can add a couple goals in the season. I know he can do it. It's always been there. It's always been part of his game. I actually think, the last goal he scored was great. I think he can actually add a couple more of those throughout the season. I think he has the ability to do so. So yeah, I think he can build on that. We can't have a 4-foot left center back. I mean, we can. We can. It's not an issue. We play with 3. It's not that big of a deal. I actually, in fact, I would actually argue that this system is better for Martinez than just playing in a 4-back, because we have the extra center back. Just like how it's better for Maguire, I actually think if you have Martinez as a left center back and you have Maguire and you have Maz, or you have De Ligt and you have Maz, I actually think it's better for Martinez, and I think it actually works better. And I think actually it fits the system much better, because what Martinez is very good at is bringing the ball out of the back. What Martinez is good at is starting the attacking play from out of the back. He's good at bringing the ball up. He's good with dribbling the ball, and he has that mindset. So actually, I think that we can have that, and I think you can balance it out. Now, it depends what teams we're playing. I feel like Newcastle, they're a very big and physical team. That might not necessarily work for that match, but teams that aren't overly physical and overly tall, I think you can play that. And in Europe, I think it works, because Europe is not the same in terms of physicality when you compare it to the Prem. So actually, I do think that Martinez, and he's not 4 feet, by the way, Grace. He's not 4 feet. He's not 4 feet. He's a short king. But he's not 4 feet. How tall? What is the difference? I would love to know. What is the difference in height between him and Luke Shaw? I don't know. I feel like they're similar. I would probably say Luke Shaw is taller than Alejandro. But I would love to know what the height difference is between them. Because if Luke Shaw is allowed to play there, then I say Martinez can play there as well. I don't think it's that part of a problem. And also, he kind of proves Graham Souness wrong. I mean, he wins lots of aerial battles for a short guy anyway, and he does quite well in the air anyway. So, especially for his height. And he is tough. So, Pogba deal liked, but had one big flaw: too much money. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Almost says it's just hard to buy players from different leagues because the standard of the teams are so poor. Yeah, maybe, but I mean, listen, that's their job, right? That's why you scout. That's why you scout. There's players that have good ability. You just got to get the profile correct. Do you think that Ruben will play Diego Leon as left wing back? I don't know. Because I haven't seen him play, so I don't know how good he is. And I believe he's fairly young, is he not? Like 18 or something, 17. I don't even know how old he is, but I think if I'm remembering correctly, he is sort of young. So I don't know what he's gonna do with him, but yeah. Jr. says, is Garnacho leaving? He is my favorite. So nothing confirmed. Actually, now that you said that, I know we went into a good big discussion. I'm gonna go away from the chat for a second. So I'll come back to you guys, but because there's updates and JR has put out that update, and I did want to get to these updates. So, I didn't finish this out though. So we last talked about Cunha real quick and how this is apparently in the final stages in terms of negotiations from the player side for a contract from Manchester United. David Ornstein told us, and this is him on NBC Sports, where he gave out all the information he gave out the other day. He also just mentioned that, you know, there's also alternatives such as Tyler Dibling or Semenyo. I guess these are alternatives for Cunha. But I don't think we have to worry about that much considering the way that the transfer is going. That's not a big deal. But to go into what JR has asked about, there was this update about Garnacho saying, and this is from David Ornstein, he was doing a Q&A. So he said an exit for Alejandro Garnacho may be likely this summer if the proposals suit both Manchester United and Garnacho. And again, I've said this a couple times. I think with Garnacho, it's very 50-50. I don't think it's been decided if he's going to go yet from his standpoint or from the club standpoint. But I will also say that I don't think that these are 100% made up transfer rumors. These stories have not gone away since pretty much Ruben dropped him the first time out of the squad, and they've sort of persisted and they keep going there. We got an update 3 days ago that Napoli are still heavily interested in Alejandro Garnacho. And I guess it's yet to be seen. I really feel like on this, I don't like to give out percentages, but I feel in personally at this moment in time, just thinking about everything, the whole Garnacho situation, the whole thing, the club and everything, I really do feel like it's 50-50. I feel like if he goes, let's put it this way, if he's sold, I'm not going to be surprised anymore at this point. If he stays, I wouldn't be that surprised either. I just feel like it really can go one way or the other. I think there's a 50-50 chance that Garnacho gets sold. And also decides that he wants to go as well. I still don't necessarily know how to really feel about it, because on one hand, I like the kid. He frustrates me with his decision making and selfishness, but I do see that there is a talent there in terms of ability in aspects of game. He is important in the attacking aspect, and I think as he grows more and he develops more, I think he'll become an even better player than he is. And I think he'll be a very, very good player, actually. But I also see how he doesn't necessarily fit into the system at the moment. And there's just a period of time coming that a decision has to be made from a footballing perspective. How does this player fit into the plans and to the system? And the amount of options we're going to have at this position. Again, I only see him as a 10. I don't see him playing wingback or any other position, really. So how does that fit into the overall plan at Manchester United? Is he going to be deemed sort of surplus to requirements? I think we have to wait and see. Now, you know, Ruben is playing him, and he's certainly playing him. He's been at a little bit of lack of options, which I think makes for... I think it makes for the argument of, you know, would Garnacho be starting all these matches if we had more options? Maybe not, maybe so. I feel like he's had to use Garnacho a lot more and start him a lot more than maybe he previously was because of the lack of options that we have up top. You know, with injuries that occurred over the certain period and losing certain players and stuff like that, and the lack of interchangeability up there. So, you know, I feel like something is similar to Cass, right? Like Ruben really wasn't using Cass. Cass couldn't even get any minutes. Cass, now maybe they were trying to build his, you know, his game up a little bit because maybe he was really behind. But I mean, it wasn't, you know, there was a period where just like everybody was just like, yeah, Casemiro was done because he's not even getting, you know, a substitute appearance for 10 minutes at this point. But we had those injuries, we had that sort of stuff, and he's had to sort of use Cass because he had no real other options, rotation, whatever it is. And Cass actually has come in and done good. And it's sort of made an argument that, hey, I'm not finished yet, sort of thing, even though I'm on a shit ton of money. But I'm not finished. I'm not finished yet. I'm not dead yet. I'm not 100% dead yet. So I kind of say that's the same as well. Like, he wasn't really using Cass. He didn't really want to use Cass, but he had to, and he's been playing Cass, and actually, a good benefit of that is that Cass is actually doing a good job, so it's worked out. And I kind of see the same thing with Garnacho. I don't know if he would actually be using Garnacho this much in terms of starting basically almost every match, and kind of having to deal with Garnacho being because listen, the one game in Lyon, he was so selfish that I was like, the next match I would have expected him to not play if we actually had the options, because I'm sure Ruben was pissed about that to a certain level. But the fact that you don't have options to choose from, there's nothing you can really do. You have to kind of keep the player on your side because you need to use him, whether you would want to use him or not. So, yeah, that was Garnacho. Rajat asks, when is Kone from Academy going to get the opportunities to play? I don't know. When he's ready. When he's ready. I think they have plans for these players. I think they're actually doing pretty decently well with the development of the youth. I expect it to get ramped up a little bit more. Again, last time Ruben Amorim, he gave a very good and important statement talking about the youth. And he said what I said and what I've been saying. He said he doesn't feel like it's the right and appropriate time to really play a lot of these youth players because the first team is so unstable and the environment is just not the right environment for these youngsters. And, you know, if the environment does become better, he said, you know, you will see more of them. He said, now you've seen some of them because sometimes we've been forced into it and sometimes you get some surprises, which I do agree with because, you know, you do never know. He mentioned Aiden Heaven and he said Aiden Heaven is my player now. So I think Aiden Heaven has, you know, is already in the he's already in the first team. Like it's not like he's gonna be there a little bit, disappear, come back maybe later on. I think Heaven is considered part of the first team quite heavily. But you know, that doesn't always happen and you have to get a little bit of lucky in those situations, and you have to be careful with the youth. So they will get opportunities somewhere at some time. I just think that it takes some time and a little bit of patience. And we also have to make sure that we have, you know, our first team in order. We have to have the proper environment for these youngsters to really thrive. You don't want to throw them in a you know, you don't want to put them on a sinking ship. It just, you know, you're just going to put them in a position to either drown or it's going to be really difficult to survive. You know what I mean? Grace says, so are you happy if our wingbacks are Dorgu and Delo next season? Yeah, I think so because I mean, yeah, I think so because I think you can, because I think Ahmad there's a play for Ahmad to interchange in there as well. So he's a winger. I don't know if he wants to go with two wingers as wingbacks. He might do so at some point because he's done that at Sporting. I think at the very least, he wants, you know, at least one actual winger playing wingback and then one sort of, you know, of a defensive player like a Delo or Dorgu playing wingback. But yeah, I like Dorgu there, and I like Delo there, and we got to see what is going to happen. I mean, Almas looks decently good. I don't know what they're going to do with him. I don't know if they plan to keep him. I mean, they had the opportunity to loan him in January. They kept him because they said that they believed that they were going to put him in the first team. So I'd like him to stick around. And I feel like maybe we're missing one option there in terms of maybe having some sort of another type of Ahmad type of player playing wing back to kind of balance it out for the left side, because Ahmad is for the right side, and I think on the left side we don't really have that. But then again, we do have, there's going to be Dorgu. Shaw's going to stay whether you want him or not, because we're not going to be able to get rid of him. And then there's potentially Almas as well. So those guys are all actual defenders. So it depends how he takes it. I think the depth is sort of okay in that sense. Having Delo and Ahmad, having Dorgu and Almas at the very least. I can't really count Shaw, but Shaw might be there in the mix. I feel like he probably does want another wing back though, because he did want Quenda, right? He wanted Quenda. Quenda is sort of like the Diallo, even though he didn't want to play there, but he is sort of the Diallo. He is a winger that plays wing back, that was playing wing back in his system, that has very good talent. So I think he does want another sort of attacking sort of winger wing back. And maybe we get one of those. But I think we need to get some other positions first, like the striker and the 10. And kind of go from there. Rajat says, like, Garnacho off the right side, because it kind of forces him to look and try such attempt to find a pass to another open teammate. Yeah, I mean, kind of, but that just has to come from him. That just has to come from him. It has to be part of the way he plays his game. And it's not. And it might not happen. So, do you think Dan Gore is going to play? Don't know about Dan Gore. I think we'll know a little bit more when we get to preseason, because I think preseason is going to be big for the youth, and with the plan with Ruben Amorim going forward, because it's going to be the proper sort of start that every manager obviously wants. You have the plan, you have the transfer window, you get most of your players in. Hopefully, we actually do that this time. We go on preseason, and preseason is perfect because you can play the youth, you can give them minutes, you can get a lot of them in there. It's a good time to sort of test them out, to kind of see where they are. And I think from there, that's where the beginning of that plan starts. I think it starts with preseason. I think a bunch of them are going to be involved in the preseason squad. I think a bunch of them are going to be involved in the preseason matches. And I think really it's really more up to them. I mean, if they're ready, and I mean, like, not like they say they're ready, but they show they're ready. If they show and prove that they're ready, then I think, some of them can launch themselves into the discussion that might not seem like they're really in the discussion right now. And I think then it goes from there. And then I think it depends. I don't expect it too heavily in the beginning of the season. Maybe they get, maybe one or two are involved in the bench. Maybe they get a couple cameos or some opportunities in some of the early, like the League Cup matches or something like that. But I think he's still going to try and make sure that the first team is stable and strong. If we can accomplish that, and we're looking very good, then I think it goes with the whole plan. I think it gets more and more and more and more, and there's more involvement of them, and they get more minutes, and they get more opportunities. So yeah. James McT would take him for one of the 10s. Well, I saw him being mentioned. I don't know about him. I don't know what's going on there, but we'll see what happens. Yes, we have interest in him. But, we look at all these sorts of players. Again, our scouting network and the players that we have on lists and, that we watch, it's pretty much worldwide. It's almost like every player pretty much. We probably have notes on almost you know almost the whole player base. It just depends how far that really goes. You know, if we don't win Europa League, he will be sold. If we win it, there's a chance he could stay, but I still think he may be sold still. Yeah, I kind of think that that doesn't. Uh, I mean, it might have some sort of an implication, almost, but I think at the moment with Garnacho, I don't even think it really matters too much whether we win or we don't win um, Europa League. Like, because I think there's the aspect of the pure profit and the money thing, but I don't even think that's the issue right now. I think the bigger issue is that he really doesn't fit. Doesn't fit the system. I think that's the biggest issue. He doesn't actually fit the system, and his qualities as a player just doesn't fit the system. Like I don't think it's an ability problem. I just think it's the way he plays his game. I think he's too tunnel vision. He's too selfish, and he can only play the 10. And to play the 10, you can't be tunnel vision and you can't be selfish, and you can't do a lot of the things he does. And his decision making has to be better. So it's whether they feel like they can work with that and that's worth it. And if it's not, then they'll get rid of him and get somebody that can do that. Sort of like what Pep did at City, you know. The guy signed like exaggeration, but he signed like 12 right backs. Why? Because they were getting right backs that the way they play their game, whether it's ability or you know IQ wise, it wasn't what Pep was wanted or needed for that role. So they just kept switching out right backs until he actually got one that actually did it. Now he could have kept one or two of them because you know they weren't like it wasn't like they were absolutely horrible right backs and like you know he could have worked with them, but I guess they made the decision that it's actually just easier if we get rid of these players because there's still the gamble of we could try to work with this guy and it might not work, and then like we've delayed it two or three seasons or whatever. So maybe they're doing the same thing here. So why is there a need to get Man City players or ex-Man City players unless it's Cole Palmer who support Man U? I mean, I don't think there's necessarily a need. I mean, we haven't really gotten many of them. I mean, we bring the Fletchers over, but they should have always been in the United Academy anyway. I don't know what they were doing over there. But whether you like it or not, I mean, City has ramped up their academy. Their facilities are way better than ours, and they're actually doing a good job at sort of getting these very young players at these young age. So, and sometimes you are able to nick one off of them because things go astray. I mean, just because they leave the academy doesn't mean that it's like, oh, City has deemed them as, you know, not good enough, so they're actually not good at all. Sometimes they leave because, you know, if they go somewhere else, they'll have a better opportunity to actually getting into the first team, and maybe it's better for their development. So it doesn't mean that they're necessarily a bad player. So it just depends. If they, you know, if they have something about them, I'm not against it either. Danny's here, says good evening. Sorry I'm late. It's all right, Sandy. Better late than never. Lyle says, I would like to see what he brings when Cunha joins. Keep Garnacho one more season at least. But yeah. And Lyle has Lyle said drop a like on the video, peeps. Yes, let's get some likes. We're actually doing very well. We got 20 likes, so shout out to everybody that smashed the like button, helps the channel out. And he's thrown in the link to the Discord. So if you haven't joined the Discord, we've already started some good conversations in there. And I would tell you to get in the Discord because you're missing all the non-live stream chats and discussions and stuff. So yeah, it's been a good time since we opened it up, and it's going to get even better. So if you haven't joined, join. So, you know, you stay up to date with all of us and get involved and all that good stuff. But yeah, and I will actually pin that so that you guys can find it just in case you lose it. Will it let me pin it? Yes, replace pin. All right. So that's pinned. But why keeping Luke Shaw? Tell me why? Because he's severely injury prone, and I don't think anybody wants to buy him. So we have no choice. we're not going to rip up his contract because that would just cost us money for no reason. So, I mean, if somebody wants Luke Shaw, I say sell him. Lions will tell you otherwise, but I mean, I say sell him, but I just think there's zero clubs out there. Like, everybody always complains United there's no interest in our players. Like, I think Luke Shaw is actually a player. There's zero clubs out there that are willing to buy Luke Shaw, and because they're not going to give him, I don't even think he's on that high of a wage, but they're not going to give him the wage he gets. And if he was to go to another club, and I think Luke Shaw knows this as well, Luke Shaw would end up at a very small team that is desperate for players, and they would take the gamble on taking him because his quality is way better than their entire team. So maybe like a championship club or something like that, based off of his injury record and fitness. So yeah, and I don't think, I think Luke is one of those players that, even if we were like, yeah, we're looking to sell you, I think Luke would actually be a player that was like, well, tough shit, I'm not leaving, I have a contract, so yeah, I'm gonna stay here. So I think he's one of those. Players. So I don't see him going in any sort of way. Yeah, it's not a correction. You asked a question. It's fine. There was a couple more updates. Let me get through these. Let's run through these, and I'll come back to and I'll circle back to the chat. So I'm just gonna ignore you guys just for a little bit. But Mainoo, because Mainoo's in the thumbnail, but I threw that in there to cause a little bit of controversy. But David Ornstein saying there's a growing sense Kobbie Mainoo will stay at Manchester United, although there is a contract situation with him that needs to be addressed by the club. And the reason why I put that in there is because they've been talking that, this whole Mainoo contract situation, and there was some talk previously that we might be looking to sell Kobbie and Garnacho for the PSR. I think Kobbie is totally different situation to Garnacho. I think Kobbie is not going anywhere. I don't expect Kobbie to go anywhere. I'm actually like 3 times more against getting rid of Kobbie than Garnacho. I wouldn't necessarily get rid of both of them, but if I was to have an argument over one or the other, I would argue much more heavily. There's absolutely no way in hell there shouldn't even be a discussion. There shouldn't even be a thought about there shouldn't even be a thought or a discussion about getting rid of Mainoo. And I actually don't think this is that big of a problem. I think it's being probably a little bit out of proportion. I think, to be quite honest, his contract doesn't run out till I think next year. So, the faster we tie it up, the better. But this could actually go on into sort of the start of next season. So there's not really that rush. And I just don't see him going. I don't think he's going. I really don't think he's going anywhere. I think Mainoo is going to stay. I think they're all pretty aware of his ability. And yeah, I think this will be sorted out at one point or another. Maybe they delay it because maybe the money he's asking for, and he goes, you know what? Fine. He's like, I'll go into next season. And he's like, and he has a good season, and maybe they give him the money that he wants. Maybe they just hold out from both parties for a little bit. But I just don't see. I think it's honestly, I think it's suicide for Inos, for the hierarchy. I think it's suicide for Barada and everybody in charge if Mainoo doesn't sign another contract one way or another. I think it's I think it would be an absolute disaster for them. I think they know that, and I think they're not going to allow that to happen anyway. This was the update on Rasmus from Ornstein, saying Rasmus Højlund leaving Manchester United this summer is plausible. So just saying again, there is a possibility. I kind of feel like with Rasmus, it's 50-50 as well with Garnacho. I think with Mainoo, it's like not even close. I would say maybe 80-20 staying, or 20-80 leaving. But with Rasmus and Garnacho, I think it's certainly, I would say it's more 50-50. And he's just reiterating that because there's been some stories. But there's Ederson as well that we needed to get to. So Fabrizio said about Ederson, said that Manchester United discussed Ederson with club officials and Ruben Amorim. United contacted the player's camp months ago to express interest. He's viewed as a top midfield candidate. Again, we are going to go for a midfield. They've identified that they need a midfielder. Ederson seems to be one that's been mentioned quite a lot, or here and there, but he's been one of the more concrete options in terms of that midfield. I haven't seen too many other ones, to be quite honest. It's really just been generally, I've seen mostly Ederson been talked about. So, and that was followed up by this saying, Fabrizio saying that Atlanta wanted more than 45 million euros for Ederson. What is more? More than 45? Is it 46? Is it 50? Is it 55? I don't know. I also hate that we keep going back between euros and pounds. It makes it harder to track all the deals. I'm not a Google search. I can't convert these I don't know the current rates between euros and pounds. I don't know what that comes out to. So they say 45 million euros. Everything else is in pounds, and then it gets confusing. So, yeah, I mean, they should, when they speak about United, it should be put in pounds. I understand Fabrizio is Italian, and he uses euros, and they use euros everywhere else besides the UK. But like, we're talking about Manchester United, and Manchester United operates in pounds because they are in the UK. They're an English club, and they operate in pounds. So when we do stories about United, can we please get all the journalists to put the fees in pounds and not in euros? So yeah. Would take Lucas Paqueta if he didn't have them be betting charges, and Man City were looking at Lucas Paqueta. Yeah. Let me check the internet because my phone was pinging some updates as we were going along. So, let's see. Let's see what we were getting while we were going live. Another update from Fabrizio, literally 59 seconds ago, saying Manchester United need at least one more meeting to fix some details for the Matheus Cunha deal. The talks are very advanced. That was 1 minute ago, 59 seconds ago from Fabrizio Romano. Fabrizio also said Ahmad is really, really trying to be back for Manchester United before the end of the season. Yeah, I hope we see him back before that. That would be good. Hopefully he does make it back. I mean, even for the fact that, like, I know the Prem is kind of over for us, but even if he can make it back for just a couple matches, and, if we end up in the final, which is May, I believe it's like May 20th or something, the Europa League final, to have him even available for that is, I mean, a huge plus. The more options we have, the better. But just, he was shooting for player of the season for us before he got injured, so it would be good to have that back. We got another update. This is coming from his name is Christopher. I don't know if it's Michael. He seems like he's a German sort of journalist. I don't know who he works for. It says Fußball News, German Sport 1, and something else, but it's in German, so I can't tell you. But apparently he's saying Garnacho is a good example of how Ruben Amorim's pragmatic way of working. He quickly realized that this type of player did not fit his system and his general idea. He let him play anyway because he needed him. It shows Amorim acts without vanity important. And I kind of just said that, which is cool. But that was sort of always my sort of feeling and sort of the argument. That's why I had that argument with Ray that one time last time, because he was absolutely furious, and I get it, that Garnacho was playing so selfish and that, Ruben didn't take him off. And I was trying to kind of make the argument that, like, I understand that, and I know that Ruben doesn't want that in the team because that was literally the first statement he made. And Ruben I think through his actions has showed he's not a guy that flip-flops. Like, he has his beliefs and he has his ways and he's set on them, but sometimes you have to make slight adjustments based on the circumstances you have. And I think, again, if we had more options up there, I don't think Garnacho would be starting all these matches. And I think maybe he would have subbed them out. But I think with the lack of options, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And actually, I think Ruben is sort of playing a little bit of both sides. There's alienating Garnacho, or just pissing him off, when you actually still need to use him, whether you want to or not, is not going to help you as Ruben Amorim. You're at a lack of options, whether you want to use this guy or not. There's nothing for you to do. He is one of your options. He's not going to go right now. You don't have an abundance of players to just, throw him into the under 18s and tell him to go cry a river and I'll use somebody else. You don't really have that option. You can, but you're going to make yourself shorthanded, which is, would you put yourself in that position? I would argue no. I would think that's kind of dumb on your part to yourself. And I think that's kind of what he's been doing. I think that, he's using this time to give Garnacho an opportunity to show that he can kind of maybe change and maybe actually play that role. But I think he's probably already deemed that he can't, and that he doesn't actually fit the system, which is why I think that there is a very heavy chance that Garnacho gets sold. And I think it's only going to get worse once the window actually opens and the season actually ends. I think the stories around Garnacho are going to get like way bigger and way hotter, especially with some of the signings coming in. So yeah, I mean, I don't know that guy. I don't know, like, how credible he is or what he actually does. But these are coming. This is coming from our aggregators that bring us news. So we do have another update coming from some man named Sean Connolly, editor-in-chief at the Theater of Red, European football correspondent for BTL of Vid, freelance writer and broadcaster. He only has 6,000 followers, so, I don't know, maybe take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, but he says Manchester United's interest in Franco Macedoano, who is the young Argentinian attacking midfielder in River Plate, I believe, has accelerated since September, initially admired by Dan Ashworth. That's not to say officials are moving towards sealing a deal, but they are keen to avoid a similar occurrence to Julian Alvarez. Well, that they should absolutely do, because our club is stupid for what they did with Julian Alvarez. Because we could have had him, and we could have had him for cheap. He went to City, played well, and, I don't know what's gone on at City, but he's gone on to Atletico Madrid, and he's done actually quite well there as well, and I would have liked him. And they should have listened to Ranić, because Ranić was spot on. Every single player that Ranić listed at that time when he did that press conference, every single player was a good player. Go back and look at that list. Every single player from that time, if you look at them now, every single one of them was a good player. He got every single player correct. And our club didn't listen to him on a single one. And that just tells you everything about how we were operating and why we make so many bad recruitment deals and why we were so bad. Because they're idiots. They're idiots. They were just completely incompetent. Let me see. Any other news popping up here on the feed? Apparently there's also something about there's a player named Johnny Cardoso, Real Betis midfielder, who Manchester United have in recent weeks been scouting. He's 23 years old, has featured in 24 matches this season, registering 3 goals and 1 assist from the midfield. I don't know anything about him. They go on to say Real Betis currently have Anthony on loan from United, and while no formal approach has been made, it remains to be seen whether any potential interest in Cardoso could pave the way for a swap deal involving the Brazilian winger. I would say most likely not. I mean, swap deals are very rare, and if it is sort of a swap, the deals are usually independent. They're not necessarily connected. It's just like, you buy that player and we buy this player. It's not like it happens in one transfer. they're usually separated. I mean, player swaps are like ultra rare. I can't even name the last time there was actually like a real player swap where like it's involved in the deal. Like we go to sell Anthony and that player comes to us in that deal. Directly from it. They don't happen. That's more of like a video game fantasy sort of thing. I can't even give you a real life example of that happening. So yeah, and yeah, that's all the updates that we've gotten there. So we are 110% up to date on everything. Sean Connery. Yeah, not that Sean Connery, different Sean Connery apparently. So yes. Axe is here. Axe, how you doing? How you been? I have seen the last stream. Honestly, those targets don't impress me, but I'm willing to support their acquisition as they are the ones wanted by the manager. We shall see if the manager can make the team perform with his players or not. We will. Again, I will say I don't expect it to go. I mean, if it goes perfect, I mean, that's great. I kind of don't expect it to go that great. It depends how many players we get and what players we get. I would say that, keep in mind that, for example, like if we sign about 5 or 6 players and they kind of all go into the first team, it might be a little bit of a mess as well because it's a lot of players that you're putting in all at once into the starting 11, and it's got to gel, right? So after a certain point during the season, it's got to gel. In the beginning, it might be a little bit bumpy. Depends how he goes about it, I guess, too. I mean, that's up to him. Are you going to throw all the new signings in at the same time? Because if you get 5 or 6 players, and you put them all in, that's half the first team. And then the other half the first team, if you're playing Ugarte or something like that, it's their second season. They're new. I mean, half the time during this season, our starting 11 is 5 new signings. So I think they found their feet now more. But in the start of the season was really. It was really sort of a mess. Other than Maz, I think Maz was very strong. I think the Lit's gotten better over time. Not that he was horrible, but I think the Lit's gotten better over time. Ugarte took till December to actually even be like sort of average. Euro was a little bit slow as well, but I think Euro now compared to Euro, well, obviously he was a little bit injured, but Euro when he played in the beginning, and when he came back to Euro now, I think Euro's gone up too. So we got to see. You're on vacation. Where'd you go? Oh, but are you on vacation, or are you just like not at work? Like, have you gone somewhere for vacation, or you're just like off work? Because if you've gone somewhere, let us know. I was watching anime till now. What anime were you watching? I've been watching Naruto again. Shippuden. I'm on episode 355. I have been binging it. Not at work, no. I am broke. I don't drive. Well, fair enough. But I mean, at least you're not at work. So, it's better than being at work, I guess. Nobody likes to be at work unless you love what you do for work. Which isn't probably the majority of the population, but it's better to be more relaxed. Work can be quite stressful, and it can be quite tiring. And you have more time for yourself and to enjoy the things that you want to do. So that's always good. So, can't really complain. Could always be worse. I say. Oshinoko season 2. Gonna have to check that out. I've been looking for some animes to watch after I'm done watching Naruto, but I think that's gonna take me quite some time because the reason why I'm rewatching Naruto is because I watched the first Naruto, the one when they're kids, and then I watched some part of Naruto Shippuden, but like somewhere in my life, I just never ended up necessarily finishing it because, you know, they had problems with like the seasons and they did fillers and it kind of just got lost in translation. So I never actually finished it. I never watched the full thing through and through. And then they came out with Boruto and I didn't watch that. So I was like, you know what? Let me go back and rewatch Naruto Shippuden so that I can watch Boruto. Um, so I'm like a little bit over halfway of Naruto Shippuden. It has like 500 and something episodes. I mean, there's a bunch of fillers in there, but and I skipped the fillers, but yeah, there's a bunch of there's a lot of episodes. And then when I watch those things, I've been trying to find some new anime. You know what my problem is with anime? There's a lot of them. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to pick an anime, start watching it, and then like, I don't know, like 30 episodes in, I'll just be like, yeah, I don't really like this anime, and I just wasted all my time. So like I'm very picky and choosy, and I'm very reluctant to start any sort of new animes. But I hear that there are some very good ones out there. So um you don't have to say what you work as, so it's fine. And you don't have to tell us what you do. It's fine. We don't need to know. Um, I think he was talking about the one where the guy propositioned you to do some illegal sales of drugs, and you turned it down. Um, so yeah. Rajat says, "Hi, Eric, bro. What's going on? We're just having a little bit of discussion, a little bit off topic. I mean, the show is pretty much over. There's nothing really else to really talk about. We went through all the news. We even got the updates. I will tell you this though, because I just checked again. Update from Fabrizio 6 minutes ago. Talking about Rasmus Højlund, saying Rasmus Højlund would love to stay at Manchester United and compete for a spot. But if the club sign a new striker, it could be a possibility for him to leave. His future is not decided yet. Napoli and Juventus are tracking him. So again, I think Rasmus 50-50. I think Garnacho 50-50. They can stay, they can go. I think it's very wide open. I don't think it's like Kobbie Mainoo. I think Kobbie Mainoo's not going to go anywhere. So yeah, I don't think Kobbie's going to go anywhere. Or did he? I mean, listen, we'll take Axe's word for it. We'll take Axe's word for it. You know, we got to be fair. You know what I mean? We don't know. We don't know. We don't have all the facts, right? So we can't just make judgments like that. We can't just say he didn't. We can't say he's lying. But you know, we like to give people benefits of the doubt. You know what I mean? We like to give them benefits of the doubt. We like to give that. They let us down. It is what it is. It's a part of life, you know. I'm only partly joking, Ax. I'm partly joking. I'm just having fun. But yeah. Yeah. I mean, it happens. It happens. So yeah. So I've been rewatching Naruto Shippuden. Actually, chat. Yeah, start shouting out some animes. And I'm gonna make a list right now, live, while we're live. Start shouting out some animes that you guys rate, and I'll make a list of them, and I'll check them out whenever I get a chance at any point, at any time. You know, I might watch some when I go on vacation, because sometimes, you know, when I go on vacation, I'll be home for a couple hours, and sometimes, you know, I don't, you know, I might not have anything going on. I'll watch a show or two, or sometimes, you know, late at night. Before I go to sleep, I'll put something on and watch a couple episodes. So Axe's show was Oshinoko. And Lions said SOA. What is that what it's actually, is it actually called SOA, or does SOA stand for something longer but you abbreviated it? Because if it stands for something longer, like, tell me what it, so I know what it is. Bluey, is that considered an anime? I don't know what that is. Rajat says he only watches Pokemon. That kind of that and different kind of Dragon Balls. Well, I'm a big Dragon Ball Z fan and Dragon Ball fan. I've watched all of everything that there is for Dragon Ball. I'm actually watching I probably pronounce it wrong. It's either Daima or Daima, whatever it is. I'm watching that right now because I was waiting for it to be translated into English, and they're still doing it week by week. So I think there's about 5 or 6 episodes left. I'm enjoying that one. The animation, like the production, the quality of it is fantastic. It's like movie quality. The fight scenes are really good, so I like it. And we're getting into like the big part of the I guess the show, like the, you know, all the big things are coming together, and no more kind of screwing around in episodes. So you know, I used to watch Pokemon. I ain't watching Pokemon no more, especially because they got rid of my guy Ash. I mean, how you gonna get rid of my guy Ash? You know, I don't understand that. You know, it took Ash 29 years to become Pokemon champion. And then as soon as he become Pokemon champion, they were like, yeah, Ash no more. We're gonna put a female character. I'm like, but you could have just, one, you took so long to make Ash champion, and then 2, you could have just made Ash like, you know, you could have made him kind of like how they did Naruto, like he becomes like you know, he teaches the kids, and he's still part of the show. That way he's part of the show. He's not a kid, he's an adult, and he's, you know, he's part of the show. Yeah, he's become Pokemon master. Sword Art Online, that's what it's called. I'm gonna check these out. Sword Art Online. Sounds interesting. Never heard of it, I'm gonna be quite honest. Who reads Berserk? Don't know what that is. Apparently, solo leveling is pure cinema. Solo leveling. I think I've heard of that one. Haven't checked it out. There was one that popped up on my Amazon because I have an Amazon Amazon Fire Cube, right? And there was one that popped up on, they've been advertising it. It seems sort of anime-ish. I don't know if it's like, I don't know if it's considered traditional anime or it's like cartoon-ish. And I don't know. It was something about the preview. It's like a 30-second clip. Something about them wearing like some sort of robot suits. It seemed kind of Transformer-ish to me. It had a little bit of appeal in that way. I don't know what the story is about exactly. I took a picture of it somewhere, and I have no clue where the picture is because I have so many pictures in my phone. Just United pictures just everywhere. So what? I'm trying to find it so I can tell you guys the name to see if you guys know or heard about it. But if I can't find it, then screwed. So, and I don't see it. I don't see it. But where is it though? Because now I need to know where it is for myself. Because I took that picture for myself, so I remember. And it's not here. It's not here. I don't know what it is. I can't tell you guys. So I apologize. Maybe I'll tell you in the next show. Also, Pop Tropica. Pop Tropica. What's that? I don't know what that is either. The first 100 Pokemon is coded. Oh, and Ash Ketchum is how is the Discord, by the way? Well, it's good. It's off to a good start. I mean, Lyle did an amazing job setting it up. We got like, you know, he started with like 4 channels, and then he added like 18 channels. So we have like about like, you know, 29 channels, and I know that math doesn't add up, and that's on purpose. But yeah, it's open, and you know, if you want to join Axe, you know, get in there. You know, the Discord is good because it's something that one we need and that we should have. But just like the channel, you know, it's something that we also have to grow out over time as well. So It is open. Yes, it is open. The link. I don't know if you see. There's a pinned link at the top. I pinned it. It's by Lyle, and that has the link to the Discord. So yeah, you can get in that. Yeah, that's I will have to put it in the channel description. I do got to do that. And then Lyle has actually dropped it in there for you. So there you go. And it says please read the house rules when you join. That's right. You know, we don't want to ban or kick anybody out. You know, we don't want to be the bad guys. So just, you know, but it's set up very good, and it's set up very clear, and I think it's very fair. And you know, Lyle has set out the rules and all that stuff, and you know what we want. And I think it's all pretty reasonable. So yeah, we should be all right. We should be all right. We should be all right. You know, it should be good. And Axe has joined actually. So I just got the notification on my phone. Axe Lord just joined the server. So good to have you in there, Axe. Do you have to do have to do introductions as well? Yeah, I mean, listen. Um, and he sent a little sticker. I love it. Yeah, I mean, listen, we'll build it in as we, or we'll update it as we go. You know, the fact that we have it, and the fact that we have a place to go to when we're not live and stuff like that, and we can chat at all hours, at any time, and you guys can chat without me as well. That's the bigger thing. You know, that it doesn't have to be with just me. It's about the community, chatting with the community. Because without this place, the community can only really chat. You know, the community can only really chat to the community when we're live. So you guys have to actually depend and wait on me to do the shows, to speak to each other. And this way, you don't actually have to do that. You guys can talk to each other like for 24 hours, all day, every day, at any time, you know, without me. And I can jump in there and out as well when I have time to do so. But that's really why the Discord is good to have, because it's just a place that you guys can connect and you know, engage with each other without having to wait for a YouTube live show to go up. So it is good. And you know, I've been in a couple Discords that they're fairly large. I mean, you're talking about like 50,000 people, 20,000, 30,000, even a few thousand people. And some really cool stuff does come out of there when these sorts of things grow. I mean, because you start meeting all types of different people, and all you know, people do all sorts of different things in their lives. And maybe you know, you meet somebody in there that shares some similar interests. You know, I know in one Discord, many business opportunities between people have started because they met in there, and they sort of do things that kind of go hand in hand, and they've been in there for quite some time, and then they ended up doing some sort of business, or you know, something like that, creating projects together or whatever. So that aspect's always really cool as well. So you know, uh we'll get there. We'll get there over time. But we got there, and we're there to start, and it's good. It's good. It's a good look for the channel, and it's a good thing to have. So I need to test out that call-in type of thing. Which whenever my sibling decides that she wants to be available, so she can test it, because it's easier for me to test it with her. Whenever she decides that she wants to be you know, available for me, I can get that tested. So and that way we can just, you know, make sure that that works, and I know how to do it properly, and then we could just start using that as well, and we can do like a call-in show. Maybe we'll do it on Fridays, because Fridays is kind of like the freestyle Friday type of thing. So yeah, but I'm gonna go, guys, because I gotta go do some things, and it's getting a little bit late, and we are gonna stream tomorrow as well. So this was just an extra stream. We weren't really kind of gonna do this. This was one that was kind of questionable. I thought we had some good updates, so I figured we might as well do it, because there was some updates yesterday and there was some updates today. So I kind of figured over the 2 days it amassed to a good amount of updates to do a show. So we will be live tomorrow. Tomorrow, I probably I think we'll do it at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 8 p.m. UK time. We'll just push it just a little bit later, just kind of like today, because I think 2:30 was a bit early. I overshot the gun there. I wasn't ready. I was kind of scrambling to put everything together for the show, which is why I pushed it back 20 minutes. So yeah, tomorrow we'll do it around somewhere around 3 p.m., 8 p.m. UK time, around there. Might be 3, might be 3:15, but around there for sure. We'll do that, and we'll do like a Friday chill show. It'll be a little bit less news oriented, and you guys can. I want you guys really to dictate what we talk about on Fridays. You guys, I want you guys to lead the discussion. I want you guys to lead the topics. Obviously, for a good portion of the show, let's keep it about United, and stuff like that. And then, when we're in like an hour and a half in or so, then we can start going a little bit off topic and talking about some other stuff and maybe some silly things and stuff like that, which is all good. I never mind that anyway. So yeah, you added a bit of ham. No vegan. Who is Enzo Kana Bayek? I see Fabrizio Romano just posted about him. Says Ridwan. Well, I think he is some sort of youngster that plays at Lee. Yeah. So Manchester United made contact to sign Enzo Kana Bayek as talent for the future from Lee Havre. Discussions ongoing for 18-year-old striker to join Inos owned side Lausanne. Not sealed yet, but in talks. So he is a youngster that plays for the Havre. I believe that's a French club, if I'm not mistaken. And apparently we're going to sign this kid, and we are going to send him to the other Ineos owned side, which is Lausanne. I don't even know where they are. Switzerland, Sweden. I don't even know. It's something like that. Some smallerish type league. So we're gonna sign this sort of 18-year-old striker. I think it's free. I believe. I think he's coming on a free, and we're gonna send him on loan over there. But he will be a Manchester United player. And yeah, this is all good as well. So we again, some young guy. Clearly, he's not. I mean, he's 18, and Cheeto is the same age. Like, clearly Cheeto is like, levels above him in terms of like where they are in their development. So this kid is clearly not, he's not going to take like Cheeto's spot as of right now. It's not going to influence, it's not going to impact Cheeto. This is somebody that there's a kid, he's available for free. 18 is still very young. 3-4 years time, when he's 21, 22, he might be a very good player in some sort of sense. And if we snap him up for free and we send him alone and help him to develop a little bit, go to Lausanne for a year, do some development there, and then maybe come and play a little bit in the academy, maybe get a loan somewhere else and stuff like that, is a good thing. We sort of have like a little bit of I guess like a feeder club in a way. In a way, one way or another. So yeah, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. We should be doing stuff like that as well. Don't make the ham too spicy, says Lee Havre, same club we got Pogba from. Yes. Yeah, Lausanne is in Switzerland. Yeah, okay. So I knew Switzerland, Sweden. I knew it was one of the S countries there. Vivell signing 100%. You think so? It's good if it is. I don't know. I didn't see anything that indicates that, but if it is, that's good. I mean, listen, this Vivell guy, I think he's done a good job since he started here, and we seem to be doing much better sorts of business in that aspect. So, thankfully, we have him at the very moment. At least we have somebody that knows kind of what they're doing. But as before, we didn't have a clue. We had people that didn't have a clue. So Vivell, yeah, hopefully just keep doing a good job, because I think right now the way we're moving is very positive. I like the direction we're sort of going in terms of players we're scouting, profiles we're looking at, and the way we're moving for deals and the way we're looking to do things. So yeah, I think it's for me it's certainly a big change from what we were doing. It's totally opposite of what we were doing pre sort of this hierarchy. So I'm here for that because I'd rather fail trying something new than keep doing the same thing over and over again and literally just keep failing. So, at least let's see how this goes and how this sort of regime handles things. I mean, the other regime had 13 years split into two because there was one with Woodward and one with Arnold, but same shit pretty much because of Glazers. So it was almost the same thing. I mean, they had 13 years to fuck shit up. So let's see what happens with these guys. You have a question before I go? We'll fire away. Go ahead, Line. Speculation considering the age and unknown huge profitability. All right. Director of recruitment, brilliant signing for Minios. I mean, yeah. I mean, at least we got somebody in there. Football guy. I mean, he has a good background coming from the Red Bull group and stuff like that, and that's important. The more football people we have with they're actually good at the job, the better. And again, I think that's why we're seeing differences anyway now. It's because we literally didn't have like football people in charge in like any level. I mean, at one point, I mean, just think about like the hierarchy of like having Richard Arnold, John Murtaugh, and Darren Fletcher as like the hierarchy, and then Eric Ten Hag, and giving Eric Ten Hag like significant amount of power that managers don't have at clubs anymore, in any club, around the world. Not even Carlo Ancelotti doesn't have that power at Real Madrid. So think about that sort of hierarchy, and prior to that as well. And then look at this hierarchy, with Barada and Pavel and Jason Wilcox and Almarim. It's like, one's red, one's blue, one's an apple, one's an orange. It's two totally different things. Undefeated says, you think Garnacho will leave in the summer? I believe it's 50-50. I believe it's 50-50. I think there is a good possibility and a good chance, undefeated, of him going. I don't think it's been decided as of right now, concretely. I don't think anybody can say he's 100% going, and I don't think anybody can say it's 100% he's staying. I think right now it's very open. It's very 50-50. I wouldn't be surprised if he sold, kind of considering the sort of news around, like, the stories that are being mentioned, but also just sort of a general feeling from me that I do kind of feel like he doesn't really fit the system. He doesn't have the characteristics that I think Ruben is sort of looking for the players in his, and I'm not talking about ability. I'm talking about, being multi-positional. I think he can only play the 10, and I think he can't even play the 10 to the extent Ruben kind of needs and wants, because he's very tunnel visioned and he's very selfish at times, and he has some poor decision making. Now you make an argument that you could say you go work those things out, and I hear you on that, but it depends what they decide. It depends if they are willing to do that, or they deem it unnecessary that, well, we can just get a player that is already suited to that position, can probably play more than just the 10, and already has the characteristics and mindset that I'm looking for to play the number 10, because you need to be able to create, and he is very selfish and very tunnel vision. So yeah, Lions, what question do you have for me before we go? Lions says 22 likes. Thank you, legends. Yes, thank you to everybody that smashed the like button, and thank you to anybody that subscribed. I want to get this sorted. I can't even go that far, but this thing up here in the top right hand corner, I want to get that sorted, because I coded that, so it does update, but it updates slowly, and it updates randomly. Like when we went live, we actually have 2,926 subscribers. and it was stuck at 2910 forever. So it does update, but it takes time. I want it to update in like real time. So like when somebody subscribes, I want the number to like change like that second. So I might have to go back into the code and or do it a different way and see if I can make that happen, because I just prefer that. It was actually quite a pain in the ass to get the code correctly. Um, it really was. You see how like so the subscriber count and the channel emblem, it's one thing. Like it's together. It's not just like it's overlapped. It's coded that way. So it's one thing. And when I was doing it, it was like making a big white text around it, so it looked very box. It looked very ugly. I was trying to get it like, you know, backgroundless, I guess. And then like it was making the numbers like gigantic for like no reason, because I was trying to keep it a certain size. Then when I got it decently good, it was like making the emblem like, it was extending the emblem like all the way this way, and there was just like a huge gap between the emblem and the subscribe count. And I was just like, why is it doing that? Because it was formatted properly before. It was quite a pain in the ass. And the fact that I got it to like that, I was just like, all right. I was like, it's good enough for now. But yeah, I want it like, I want it like live. Like I want it to like update like immediately. Which it doesn't, because it takes time. So it should be like immediately live. So I got to play with that a little bit. But yeah, thank you to everybody that has subscribed. And if you're new and you subscribe, make sure you hit the notification bell icon, because you're gonna miss the notifications for when we go live, and you might miss a live, or you might join late and you might miss a good part of the conversation. And you don't want to do that, because we have the best conversations ever on this channel. And yeah, and we have a wonderful and excellent community as well. So I don't know where Lines is gone, but I gotta go. I think he's stalling and he's trying to keep me here. So I can't wait any longer. I do have to go, because I was gonna go about 20 minutes ago. So I don't know. Ask me in the comments. You ate the sandwiches. Ask me in the comments if you need lines under the channel when you asked. What'd you ask? You didn't ask nothing. Not on my screen. Did it not come through? I don't see it. I see it says you said I have a question before you go, and then Undefeated asked me a question, and then Lyle said 22 likes, and then Axe said he ate sandwiches, and then you said I asked, and then you said did it not come through. So I did not, I didn't, it's not there. But you know what? Why don't you just save it for the comments? Just save it for the comments of the show. Just save it for the comments, and I'll respond to you in the comments. Because we need comments underneath the episode as well. So save it for the comment lines and ask me there. I think that's good. And yeah, we'll speak tomorrow. We're gonna go live tomorrow, so I hope all you guys can make it. It'll be good to see you there, and it'll be sort of a Friday freestyle. I think we got a slight update. Yeah, apparently Corey says Ahmad is back, which is cool. Thank you, Corey, because I was literally just about to say that right before I got off. Amad Diallo set to be back in training with Manchester United squad already next week, despite initial expectations for season to be over after injury. He's recovered in record time. That is Fabrizio as well, giving us updates. So Ahmad back in training with United next week. That's actually absolutely huge news. I think while he will be back in training, I don't think that means that he'll necessarily be part of the squad or maybe one of two of the matches. I think because I believe he's been doing individual training, like, so a little bit of gym work. I don't think he might have been doing some individual training on the pitch, but he hasn't been doing team training. So it's good that he'll be back in team training. I think it'll probably take like an extra week or two of him doing like team training before he's actually put back into the squad, but we'll see. I mean, you know, he's already performed some sort of a miracle apparently, because he's recovered in record time. His season was supposed to be over and he's apparently back, so very, very good. But yeah, apparently Ahmad is back, so thank you, Corey, as well, for that update. Appreciate that. And yeah, Lyle's celebrating. Injury returns coming at the correct time for us. Yeah, I mean, listen, for a team that I feel like we've been sort of fairly unlucky in a lot of situations throughout the season. I mean, in some situations we just been shit, right? Let's be real. But in some situations, some aspects, I feel like we've been unlucky with certain things. And so it's good when these sorts of things kind of happen because it's a little bit of luck. And it's a little bit fortunate, and it's coming right around the time that we actually kind of need these things. We could do well with these things. Right around, we have this play-in for the Europa League. We need to sort of, I mean, we want to get it, not just for the money, but we want to be in Champions League. And these guys coming back at this time, and maybe having an important role to play, in this, and maybe one of them gets us over the line in the Europa League final or in this upcoming semifinal at the very least. So it could play a pivotal part. So it is big, it is huge, and it is right around the perfect time. And it's about time we have a little bit of good luck. I feel like we've been suffering. A lot of it maybe is just poor performances, but I feel like there's times where we suffered a lot of just shit luck in a lot of different situations. So it's about time that it goes the other way. And Lyle says, let's close off the season on a high. Yeah, I think that's I mean, that's the only thing we really can do. That's the only thing we really can do, and that's the only thing we really hope for. Win the UEL, get into the Champions League, and have an absolutely fantastic transfer window for this manager, but for the club as well, because again, the club's more important than the manager and the project as well. Ruben's just here to help the project move along. The project is bigger than the manager. So, let's see. What's for dinner? I think rice and ground turkey. I've been on the diet, so I've been eating healthy. I think we got like lean ground turkey, 93% lean. Gonna cook that up. Gonna season the crap out of it because turkey's a little bit dry. It's a little bit, not that flavorful. So season the hell out of it. Make it taste fantastic. Throw in some veggies in there. Some peppers, some broccoli. Get a little bit of a mix in there. Maybe a little bit of hot sauce or something like that. Yeah, ground turkey. Yeah. So we have ground turkey here. So it's like turkey. So it's like beef, like ground beef. But it's turkey instead of beef. It's the same thing. It's just turkey. So they ground the turkey like they do ground beef. Yeah, turkey mince. There you go. I don't know how I feel about it. It's actually good. It's actually good. It's yeah, it's actually good. I actually prefer it that way. It seems to be less dry than actual like full turkey. It seems to be less. It seems to be less dry in that manner. And I think it's probably easier to eat. So and you can mix it up with a couple things. I mean, if because beef is a little bit worse than turkey, right? Turkey's a little bit more healthier than beef. So if you're trying to be healthy, like if you make some sort of like a pasta dish, and it would be like pasta with some sort of like a meat sauce, like a ground beef meat sauce. You can actually use the turkey instead of the beef. It tastes almost, I mean, you won't notice it really, and it tastes really good. And I usually do that. Says I've been weighing myself constantly every morning. I have been 65 and 67. Well, yeah, I told you last time, it fluctuates because sometimes you retain more water and stuff like that. So you can weigh yourself every morning. But you should really, the reason why I said last time you do it once a week on the same day is so that you get like an average, because you're like, it's like an average of a week. When you do it every day, you might be you might go up slightly, you might go down slightly, you might go back up a little bit slightly, you might go back down, you might go a little bit higher and then be like, what the hell? And then one day you might check and you've actually gone down quite significantly. So if you do it once a week, the same day, it's easier for you to tell, and maybe you drive yourself a little bit less crazy. Like if you just do it every Monday at like 9 o'clock in the morning or something, it's easier for you to tell because you're going from week to week. So in between that time, there's 6 days for your body to change, and then over time it should just start going down. If you do it every day, it's fine, but just, you know, don't don't like drive yourself crazy saying like, you know, why am I 65 one day and 67 the next day, and why do I keep going up and down like this? It's just, that's normal. Like your body, it's water weight, it's all sorts of things. It adjusts things. The main thing is like over a period of time, over a long period of time, the number should be going down if you're dieting properly and if you're exercising properly. So you shouldn't weigh every morning. I mean, they tell you not to because people tend to get like you know, upset, or their head starts, you know, they get confused, or they start getting upset because they're like, oh, I was 65 yesterday and then today I'm 67, I must not be dieting properly. And then they start doing all types of crazy stuff because they think they're gaining weight when they're not, when they're actually not gaining fat. Like they're not gaining weight. It's just water movement and stuff like that. So they tend to tell you to not really do it. If you want to do it to get an average and you want to do the math yourself, you can do it every day, but then you have to do the math and average, you know, what the weight difference is in terms of, because one day you'll go up, one day you'll go down, maybe you'll go down and down, and one day back up, and then you have an average of kind of what the weight is going down. So yes, after and do it, yes, like Lion said, number 1 and number 2. No, but that is the proper way. I mean, because that is like excretion, right? So like, you know, you should, they do tell you, they do recommend you to do that, you know, once you've like cleared the system out. And don't eat anything before weighing yourself either. So you clear the system out, don't eat anything. So turkey mince, yeah, I mean, well, now, you know, we jumped 2 topics. We went 1 and 2 and we're talking about food. We don't want that. With what? Cabs, veg? Yeah, some veg, some broccoli, some like grilled peppers, you know, red peppers, stuff like that. Maybe a little bit of onion. Yeah. So no, it's good. I've been eating that sort of for a while now. I could eat that almost every day. So I'm around 100 kilos. That's 220. Big boy. That is big boy. But it also depends how tall you are as well. You know, if you're my height, you don't want to be 220 pounds. You don't. No, if you're 5'5", you don't want to be 100 kilos. That's you know, that's a bit of a big problem. If you're like 6 foot, I don't know. If you're like 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", 220 pounds, it's not that bad because you're taller and you know, and you're bigger. So, yeah, I mean, give it a try. We eat it. It's healthy. It's good, and you can mix it with a couple different things. You can mix it with rice, and you can mix it with pasta. And it's you know, if you have pasta, you could put it in a salad if you want. I think, you know, so you have a couple different options, and it's quite healthy. It's a lot more healthy because it has a lot less fat in it. It's a lot more lean than beef, so less fat, and it's a good source of protein. So, could you class turkey mince as Xmas dinner? I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe it depends the way you prepare it, but I mean, the classic like Xmas dinner is like, you know, the full roasted like turkey, you know, like with the leg and the whole, you know, the whole thing, like. That's probably the more traditional thing. I mean, you can, I guess. I mean, listen, if it's your house and you're cooking it and you're serving, you could do whatever, you could say whatever you want. So, yeah, I'm closer to 6 feet. Yeah, that's you know, that's probably better. I mean, around there. I mean, maybe slightly, a little bit on the higher side, but I mean, yeah, I mean, to be 220 and be 5'5", 5'6", that's a huge issue. The taller you are, the more you're allowed to sort of weigh. So, you know, like I think people, I don't know the exact range. That's why I'm trying to say that. Like, I know for people that are like, if they're 6'2", they're allowed to be somewhere around 200, 180, something like that. Something like that. You know, unless you're like a NFL player or something. But generally, I'm just messing. I'm on a weight loss journey, so yeah, aiming for under 100 kilos. Well, good luck. It takes time. It's a pain in the ass. It is. It really is. It's easier to put on the weight than it is to take off the weight, but Just stay consistent. Stay consistent. I'm doing it too, and I already did this once before. So I know you can. I know it's possible. It just takes time. It takes time, and it takes a little bit of discipline, and a little bit of dedication. But it will happen. Just make sure you're properly exercising as well. Um, Lyle, like you work from home, you maybe your life, I don't know what you do. I'm just saying, like, people that work like office jobs or they work on the computers, their life is a little bit more sedentary because they're not doing anything. It's a bit different for me, like where I work construction, because we're walking around and doing stuff and we're constantly moving. So my life could be considered a little bit more active than people that work on computers and stuff. So just make sure that you're like, doing some good cardio, and maybe lift a little bit of weights, because lifting weights is actually very good. It's actually better than the cardio. I mean, cardio is good, and I don't agree with these people that say, just screw the cardio. Cardio is good for you, on all types, whether you walk, run, sprints, whatever it is. But lifting weights is great because you burn fat while you're lifting, but your body also burns fat 24 hours after lifting weights. So if you lift weights, and you diet properly and you do a little bit of cardio, you should be good in the next 4 months or so. You should be going down quite a good amount. So yeah, good luck with that. I'll catch you all tomorrow, 3 o'clock. Everybody be good. Have a good day. Get involved in the comments under the show if you want. I appreciate those always, and they're a good look for the channel. So if you guys do that, thank you to the ones that always do it and have been doing it, and thank you to the ones that are doing it. We will talk tomorrow if you guys pop around. And yeah, ciao says Axe. Yeah, everybody be good. Have a good night. Thank you guys. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for the love. We smashed it with the likes, 22 likes. And shout out to all the new subscribers as well. And shout out to, the chat as usual, Axe, Lions, Lyle. Couple new guys popping in there, Undefeated. And Ridwan was in here as well. And Corey. Rajat, of course. Can't forget about him. And Sani. And Grace. And Almo. Can't forget Almo either. And yeah, and that's pretty much it for today. So cheers, thank you guys. We'll talk later. Maybe I'll pop into the Discord a little bit if I have some time, because I got to do some things. And but if anything, we'll talk tomorrow. And Temizgin, yes, and Temizgin. Thank you for that. I don't like to forget anybody. And Temizgin, shout out Temizgin as well. So yeah, thank you guys. We'll catch you later. Be good. Have a